Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today, we are going over episode 6 of The Boys, the show on Amazon Prime. Prior to episodes of this show, we like to give an NSFW warning. This show is intended for a mature audience and has extreme violence and some scenes of sexual misconduct. If these topics upset you, then we do not recommend you continue listening. We begin the episode with a VOT-produced show called Super in America.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's so funny. Oh, my word.
Yeah, they're very cheesy, right?
Yes. It's like government-sponsored propaganda of superheroes cheesiness,
That's what they're going for.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Homelander is playing with kids on a playground. Maeve is in a refugee camp with Samaritan's Embrace. A-Train is jogging alongside some veterans in wheelchairs.
That's the most offensive one. I love it.
They all appear to have lost a leg in service to the United States. I mean, that's pandering at the highest of levels, right?
Oh, my Lord. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Deep is teaching lifeguards how to do CPR. I laugh just because it's The Deep. I mean,
right.
Black Noir.
That's all he could do is lifeguard. He would make a great lifeguard.
Yeah. He could act as a translator.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe, like I said, in Jaws, maybe he can sit out there and keep the sharks away. It's like, dude, just keep away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they might.
Yeah. Black Noir is in a Japanese house making matcha.
Now, see, I love that you know this. I don't even know what he's doing. It's like
the only reason I know this. Let me clarify. The only reason I know this is because my wife has similar tendencies to me, where we go deep on something. And she got into matcha last year.
Now, is that the tea ritual?
I'm not sure what all is entailed with the tea ritual, but it does kind of look like it. But I can't definitively say that is 100%. But what I can tell you, the thing that gave it away to me was that little bamboo whisk that he had when he's mixing it up. They mix the powder with that, and my wife has one of those. So that's when I saw that. That's what made me think of it. So
I love Black Noir, man. He's so strange. The way they present this guy is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
What else can you show him doing but making matcha?
Right.
Apparently nothing.
Well, we haven't really seen any clips of any of the movies that he's supposed to be in or anything.
That's true.
Right.
All I can think about is season 2, the opening with him.
Well, even the scene we saw where he messed up the Japanese suit girl.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That was very brutal combat.
It's so cool to see him unleashed. Yeah. I love seeing him unleashed.
Again, he's drinking with his mask on, just like we saw at the party in the Vought Tower.
That little extra filtration.
Yeah, that can help, especially with the tea, right? It just might leave a little area around. Little lipstick, maybe.
Right? A little brownish. Okay, a little stain there. Okay, cool.
Translucent is swinging on a swing, but he's invisible. Love it.
Is he really there, or is he already dead at this point?
I think.
Do you think this is stock footage?
I'm going to interpret it. Well, that's one of the two possibilities. It's either stock footage or they're doing it because he's missing, but they're pretending he's still there.
Right. Now, I know I dog on these commercials, but I do like sappy things in certain ways because those values are truly missed at some points, but they so overham it. It's just so cheesy in these commercials, isn't it? It's dreadful.
It is. Yep.
It's like it would send you into a diabetic shock. It's so sweet.
Hmm. Nice. Sweeter than sweet tea.
Right, right. Or is that sweet matcha?
I'm not sure. I think you drink it without anything in it. I think my
Okay.
wife's maybe only made it for me one time that I recall.
Okay.
And
Not a
I don't,
big tea guy.
yeah.
I grew up in the South drinking sweet tea as a child, and I'm just so sick of tea.
Hmm.
I don't
Right.
know why I'm not, I don't know why I'm that way.
Mm. I drink coffee in the morning and then tea after lunch.
Okay.
And that's
I'm a Coca-Cola guy.
mm,
I put so much sugar in coffee. I drink less sugar in Coke
mm.
if I drink a Coke. Yeah, in all honesty. So I just drink a Coke, and I try to leave it at one a day and drink water the rest of the day. So.
I used to put so much creamer in my coffee that it was basically just it was sweetening it up a bunch, right? So you wouldn't
Like a soda, right?
yeah, but I started intermittent fasting about 4 years ago. And
Okay.
when you do that, you have a window where you're supposed to take your calories in, but you can have black coffee if you're not. So there's a couple thoughts on intermittent fasting. Some people say absolutely nothing but water. Some people say,
Okay.
black coffee's okay as long as you don't put anything in it.
Okay.
That got me drinking black coffee.
I tried fasting for religious reasons once,
Hmm.
but I just didn't drink. I drank water,
Hmm.
you know,
How long
and
did
I
you
only
go?
did for about 12, 14 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I should have probably, I should have tried to go the whole day. I could have probably made it, but I thought I was, it was I was hungry. I was like, okay, I made it pretty good. I was kind of proud of myself just for trying. Nobody told me to do it. I just kind of thought, let me try this. And it was pretty cool, I guess. I don't know.
So when I do intermittent fasting, I've done a couple different ones. At first, it was very hard, but I worked
Okay.
down to 16 hours of fasting and then an
Okay.
8-hour feeding window. And then eventually I got to eating one meal a day. But that
Okay.
meal is kind of spread out over a couple hours, you could say. It's like just you're trying to get all your calories in within a certain window. You can only eat so fast,
Okay. Okay. I get that.
And then I graduated to doing a 3-day fast one time.
Wow.
And then I did a 5-day fast.
Okay. Wow. That's bold. Nice.
And I have difficulties with food management.
Sure.
I have a tendency to want to eat a lot of food, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
This has allowed me to psychologically, I can have a big meal, but the discipline comes from not eating outside of the window. So I'm
Okay.
kind of able to limit my calories because I'm eating within that period. But
Okay.
either way, I lost like probably 40 pounds doing it.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I've just been trying to be better, not necessarily that I eat healthier, just eat less, and that's helped me. I've lost about 15 pounds here in the past couple months here,
Mhm.
so I've been real happy about that because I would like to lose because I like my fight. I'd like to be 200 because I'm 6'4".
Mhm.
200 is the perfect weight for me. I was at 235, close to 240, so
Mhm.
I'm actually down to about 220. So I'm pretty happy about that right now.
Yeah, nice. For
Thanks.
6'4",
Yeah,
that's pretty
so
good. Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Mhm.
I don't want to be, yeah, but it's hard, man. But I think I'm like you. I think it's easier for me to kind of eat like that. Try to be more intermittent. I'll ask you. We'll hit that more later
Yeah.
personally.
Sorry for the diversion.
No
This
problem.
started with the black coffee and tea
Matcha, yeah.
stuff.
This is what this show's about, brother. It's all good.
Yeah. The last scene we see says to be shot Starlight relating to people. The camera zooms out and we see that we are in an editing room for the show. The editor is making excuses.
I'm sorry. I still laugh at the relating to people. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, it's already planned out.
Such a vague. I know it's such a vague, but you can totally understand what the concept is, though. It's what's so funny,
Yeah, probably amongst children kneeling.
right? Reading a storybook. There you go.
Mhm.
Children must be. There you go.
Mhm.
Using her powers in some really cool way to make children happy.
Yeah. The editor is making excuses, saying a lot of the shots are temporary footage. The producer, whose name is Courtney, but it's spelled strangely, Courtenay is how it's
Right.
spelled. She says she loves it if they're going to be airing it on TLC between My 600-Pound Life and Little People Big World. But they're not because they aren't cheap reality garbage.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel, Courtney.
Yeah, yeah. She's a little blunt.
Right, right. I appreciate that.
The editor apologizes, saying he was trying to go for something more personable, down to earth. And you kind of picked up on that. You were kind of talking about how sweet it was, kind of like retro, kind of how things used to be, right?
Yes.
Courtney tells him they need to look like someone you would want to be in the army. She also asks why they have no Starlight footage, and the editor says she hasn't made herself available to the film crew. Courtney wants to know where she is. A VOT News Network report is playing. A couple of notes here. The headline is Starlight Goes Dark, and the subheader is Heaven Can Wait - for Starlight. Very clever.
Yeah.
The anchor asks, has a heavenly body lost her luster? Should I read into that? Is there any innuendo going on there?
I don't know. I think it's just it's a good news writer
Okay.
looking for any news line possible. It's kind of provocative, but it's not saying anything.
Okay.
So you're not crossing over into some legalities, I think.
All right.
Maybe. That's just a guess.
All right. The channel changes to the NNC news channel. The coverage here is centered on the Twitter response to the situation. Here are the tweets shown in the clip. The truth always comes out. Hashtag go Starlight. Hashtag call out predators. So this one's in support. Sick Dave, it's SIKK Dave, tweets, regret is RAPE. Hashtag Starlight is a slut.
Wow.
So that's kind of the savage male take on the situation.
The trolls.
Yeah. There is another tweet. We support you. Hashtag I stand with Starlight. So another one in support. Another reads, it's a scary time for men right now. Hashtag Starlight is a liar. Hashtag voluntary celibate. So they got the kind of black pill community in here. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. That's kind of the men that have given up on relationships and women in general.
Oh no, I have not heard it referred to as that. No, but they're okay. Black pill. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like blue pill, red pill, and then this term black pill has been coined. So it's nothing.
Now, what is blue pill, red pill? Is that matrixy, or are we? Or
it is matrixy, right? The red pill is, in any context, is the people that are perceived as having woken up to some truth.
Okay.
Whatever that truth is in the context of that conversation.
Oh, okay. Now, out of this conversation, the one things that I always have the hardest time with, and I'm going to sound like a complete Luddite when I bring this up, but all of this junk of using a pound sign in front of a run-on sentence, I am aware that this is a hashtag. I'm saying it to be provocative, but the pound sign becoming the hashtag, I don't is this read in a metrics somehow, or why are all these signs out there? I don't understand anything of how that works.
Okay. It's related to how Twitter works.
Okay.
What happens is someone tweets something and then they can create a hashtag.
Okay.
And then people can pile onto that tag.
Okay. Like supporting, you mean like we're going to go to this hashtag to support, or
kind of ties all engagement together related to that. For example, hashtag Me Too. So the whole Starlight scenario is related to the Me Too movement. Right.
Yes.
This was kind of going on around when the show came out. That was all tied together with hashtag Me Too. So on Twitter, a lot of people were putting posts on there related to people doing bad things or people telling their stories, coming out about certain things that happened to them. That's the way the functionality works on Twitter.
Okay.
So you can call people into a conversation. I don't really use Twitter, but I think you at somebody to like tag them directly. And then if you want to tie whatever your post is to a topic, you could put the hashtag in there. So when you see a run-on sentence like that, they're trying to give some context into what is being said in that thread.
Because you know me, I'm a technology guy, but I'm not a social media guy. So so this is kind of new to me. and it's not new. I know Facebook is old now, but dude, to me, it might as well be brand new because I've never done anything on it ever. I don't have an account. I don't have a TikTok. I do not have an Instagram or a tweet or any of that other stuff. I have zero. Now I know that may have to change because maybe we'll become overwhelmingly popular and we'll need to have these presences.
That's when, if you're overwhelmingly popular, you hire a social media manager.
Beautiful. Nice. So bring it on. Let's do it. Bring on the popularity. Bring on the sweet internet money.
They play a clip of Maeve at a press conference. She is saying her thoughts are with Starlight and she supports her in every way. The news is interviewing a girl in the street, and she is saying she wants to know who the dude is that stuck his in her face. She should that her in the.
God bless this woman.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. The delivery, it was great. Yeah.
Oh, she's wonderful.
To this last outburst, the anchor simply responds, "Oh, okay." Didn't know what to do with it.
It's not much else you can say, really. Okay. Nice.
The camera zooms out, and we are taken to a bar where Starlight and Huey are having drinks. Starlight doesn't like that of all that she said in her speech, they are only focusing on her statement about what the Deep did to her. Right. Huey tells her to focus. They have a Panera gift card to win. The bar is having a trivia night, and the gift card is the reward.
Now, I think I feel before this episode that time was super right there, like in the first, 4 or 5 days, maybe a week. Now, I feel that some time has elapsed. Do you feel that with him and her, their closeness, their appearance of closeness here seems very tight? Like very friendly, like they've been hanging out a little bit more than, like they've at least gone out more than 4 or 5 times or something like that, Well,
the fallout from her speech would have been pretty quick.
That's true.
That being said, the fact that Starlight has been unavailable to put together the footage for this promo that they're putting together does indicate that maybe some time has elapsed. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
It could go either way, just based on the fact that that Huey and Starlight could be closer given what they shared at the end of the last episode.
And that's very true. I mean, it could just be, you could still be next day on that and them just enjoying a new closeness.
Right. Or it could be a couple days as well, given time because people are asking Maeve at a press conference about how she's supporting Starlight. That indicates probably that didn't happen that same day. Maybe it happened a couple days later.
Right.
But we have no indication directly of how long it's been.
Copy that. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just curious.
The question that is asked is, before joining the Seven, which hero led a search and rescue team after the 1994 Northridge earthquake? Quick side note here. I was actually living in Southern California when this happened. We were about 20 miles away in Torrance. This earthquake was a 6.7 magnitude.
Yes.
I don't remember specifically if we felt it. We had some other fairly decent sized earthquakes, but I don't remember if we felt it that strongly where I was. Nothing really bad happened. We were living in an apartment at the time. A couple weeks later, we did drive by Northridge and I think we went to a restaurant over there, but we saw some of the apartments that had collapsed, and that's got to be a really scary thing. You're on a bottom floor and on a part. Well, I mean, heck, if you're on a top floor and it starts collapsing, you're falling. But I mean, being trapped in a lower floor also, it's horrifying.
Yeah, that would not be good. And my late wife, before I had met her, had actually lived in that area. The San Francisco area when that stuff hit. And
well, San Francisco is quite a bit farther north, right? 6 hours north.
Was it there that they experienced a lot of damage there during the World Series? Or is that the same earthquake?
That's a different earthquake.
Different earthquake. Okay.
San Francisco did have a large earthquake. I can't remember what the name of it was, but they had an issue on one of their bridges that the top level collapsed.
Yes, that was the one I'm talking about. So that was not. I assumed that it was the same earthquake because it would have been about the time she would have been pregnant, which would have been about that time she had twins in California when she was there.
Yeah, I want to say that was a 6 or greater earthquake as well.
I know it struck during that. What was that, Game 6 of the World Series or something like that? When the one I'm talking about, because that's when she talked about. It's a World Series game.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that there was a baseball game. I don't know
Okay, that's the one I'm talking about. I assume that they were the same thing, but I living here in a place where we don't see much earthquake action. You know, I think it's weird to live in a place where that happens kind of frequently.
Right.
Apparently,
It's interesting the trade-offs that you get depending on where you live from a
right,
natural disaster perspective, right? Because
right,
California has the earthquakes, mudslides, wildfires.
yes,
And potentially in the north, you could possibly have some volcanic activity, though there hasn't
yes,
been any
that's true.
lately. Texas, we got tornadoes,
Yeah,
hurricanes. Is there anything else? We actually do have wildfires here
yeah, we
sometimes.
do, and
Yeah.
I live in an area which is what's funny. Where I live in what is called the Hill Country here of
Mhm.
Texas, which is, like I said, absolutely gorgeous. The biggest thing we have is, yeah, it's not that we get rain. I know it can be dangerous for wildfires here because it's a semi-arid country, so it's low humidity to begin with. So semi close to the desert, very New Mexico-ish. And we have these hills, but we get a lot of wind, and so yeah, along with all that stuff together, you get this. It creates a more of a fire hazard here. I'm not in Tornado Alley like I used to be in Dallas.
Mm.
So I've enjoyed the change of not having to be scared that we're going to have a tornado every time it gets dark clouded in Dallas, because it would be that way where I live. But here, it's just a lot drier, and I think fire is the big danger here.
Mm. Yeah. I'm not sure what the worst one is. They're all in their own way equally
For
bad.
y'all have been flooded out. You've been flooded out a couple times, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the floods. I got flooded one time.
One time, okay.
Only once. But
Only once.
but when Harvey came in again, the same place we lived flooded again, I think.
Oh
So
my word.
but we weren't living there.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was a year later. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we had moved by
Okay.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on. Huey asks Starlight, "Isn't it your job to know this kind of stuff?" She shakes her head while trying to remember. Huey finally bursts out, "It's Lamplighter." He tells her he had all the trading cards when he was a kid. She responds with, "Of course you did."
Of course you did. But it's nice though. It's a fun tease. I like
Mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm.
I like their chemistry.
Someone in the bar calls out, "It's Huey's friend." They've been best friends since the 4th grade. His name's Anthony. Anthony says that after what happened at Huey's job, this is the translucent incident at the electronics store,
Right.
all of Huey's friends were worried about him. Anthony notices that Huey is there with a woman and introduces himself to her. Starlight introduces herself as Annie, and Anthony does not recognize her as Starlight. Anthony thinks she looks familiar and asks her if she went to their high school. Huey tells him she's new in town. Anthony is telling an embarrassing story from Huey's childhood where there was a huge girl named Gretchen in their class, and Huey made fun of her girlfriend. Gretchen threatened to beat his ass, so Huey ran and hid in a pet store for 4 hours.
Oh, good friends. Good times.
The way Anthony describes it, Huey apparently gave some Clint Eastwood stare prior to
Right.
running. He's probably just petrified, trying to figure out how to handle this situation.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what good friends are going to do, right? They're going to embarrass the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't, and it's not done out of hate. It's always done out of,
No.
it's just fun. It's good nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You wouldn't tell the really embarrassing stories until
I would hope not.
they're married or something.
Right.
They can't get away as easily.
Right.
While Anthony is telling this embarrassing story, Huey doesn't look that comfortable and he excuses himself. He's sitting by himself at the bar, looking a little pensive. Anthony comes up and sits up next to him, saying he's surprised to see Huey at the bar and that he's been worried about him following the events of his girlfriend's death. Huey says he's sorry, and Anthony tells him he should be. Huey says he should have called. Anthony says, "You think?"
Yeah,
he seems like a pretty good friend, honestly.
He does, because if he's like either one of us, you got a couple friends, and if something like that happens and you don't even say it, you don't even reach out to anybody, they have cause for concern, and Anthony has every right to be genuinely hurt by this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's happy to see him there with that good-looking girl, though.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that. Yep,
absolutely.
Huey assures him he's okay, that he just needed a fresh start. Anthony asks, "Fresh start?" And he looks over at Starlight, who is sitting across the bar at the table they were drinking at. He tells Huey that his fresh start is way out of his league and asks if he knows that. Huey tells him that he is aware.
Good friends.
Good friends. Anthony finishes, telling him to live his life. It's what Huey's girlfriend would have wanted.
And that's nice. He needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm. He did. A film crew is about to film Homelander in his, air quotes, childhood house. Homelander is straight-faced and serious and asks if they are rolling. As soon as the director says action, Homelander flips the charm switch on and is in character.
Absolutely.
He's giving a tour of the house. His grandfather built it with his bare hands. His mom would sit at the old piano while Homelander and his dad would be building model planes. He can almost smell the silver paint.
Is that where the high from this dream came from? It's the silver paint.
Maybe the glue as well.
Right?
Yep. He wishes his dad would have lived long enough to see him fly with the Blue Angels. That would have blown his mind. He's holding a picture of him and his parents and kisses his hand, then puts his hand on the picture, telling them he loves them. They go to his old bedroom. He calls it the Baseball Hall of Fame. There is a picture of his Little League team. He played shortstop. He admits that he couldn't show off all his talents, but they did a lot of winning.
Is he admitting to cheating here?
He's admitting to sandbagging.
Which I don't even know what you mean by that. I've heard that term. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so he could have probably smashed every ball that was thrown and got a home run every time. He could have thrown absolutely the fastest balls on the field, faster than anything in the MLB. He dropped his skill level down so it wouldn't be as apparent that he had super skills. That's what sandbagging is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah.
Copy that. This has been educational for me as well, folks. Thank you.
As he walks up to his old bed, he becomes overwhelmed with emotion, saying it feels so special to come back. He's looking down at his old bed and he notices something. He points down at a blanket and says he's sorry. Why is this here? The producer's confused. Homelander is now out of charm modes, charm switch off.
Right.
And his normal self has appeared, the sociopath self. He says, Who put this blanket on the bed? The producer tells him it was Randy Setdeck. I love how Randy doesn't have a last name. It's just Randy Setdeck.
So I was curious. I see the name here. So is that the position? Is the set deck?
Set decorator. Okay. I assume.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. Randy set deck. Okay. Yeah, and I love how we grab Randy with two hands and throw him under that Homelander bus real quick too.
Homelander wants to know who that is. He doesn't know who Randy Setdeck is. The producer points to him, and he's in the corner of the room, kneeling behind a door. So he's in a very vulnerable position. Homelander turns to him, throwing the blanket at Randy, and says, "Randy, why? You asshole." Then he storms out of the room, saying, "Amateur." The producer is looking very confused. He asks, "What just happened?" I had a note here to ask you why you think Homelander got so upset. Because as I'm taking these notes, I'm doing it kind of a stream of consciousness, processing as it. And so this is answered later in the episode.
It is.
Yeah.
But I also have a note that in that revelation. But, the thing that bothers me so much about Homelander is he doesn't appear to have any physical weakness. Mm-hmm. He appears to be, he's emotionally unstable. That his weakness is mental, which is horrifying in and of itself. But physically, I don't think this guy's weak to anything unless somebody's equally as tough as he is.
I agree. If you never have to mentally challenge yourself, put yourself through anything that will increase your discipline or capacity, then you will let things bother you or get in your way, right? Yeah. He doesn't really have any resilience.
No, not at all.
The only thing that's really saving him is the fact that he has all this strength. Nobody can really challenge him.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. Thanks.
MM is giving a presentation. I love this scene. It's great. There's a map on the wall with a bunch of red pins in it. This reminds me of what the comp stat predecessor would have been. It's a map with the incidents where they're taking place. That's what the New York City police force was using prior to switching to the computer statistics program. MM is talking about Samaritan's Embrace, led by Ezekiel, but bankrolled by Vought. The organization has been shipping Compound V to 53 hospitals across the country since 1971 and disguising it as polio vaccine.
Now, we've talked earlier in one of the episodes, I forget, it's the episode where Starlight's inducted into the 7, and we talk about that the Vought owns a couple of hundred soups under their own banner, I think, right? Isn't that correct? So I think with this, and like I had read in the comment that there's over 200,000 soups in the world. I think that that's a possibility when you see them doing it since 71. I mean, dude, that's 50 plus years.
It is possible. What I would say here is we don't know how many babies they're dosing at one time,
right?
What percentage of them take to the dose and actually have a manifestation of powers.
Also, how many powers are useful?
Right. Yeah, well, that's another point is how many powers are actually useful. Yeah,
useful powers.
Given all those variables, it's hard to say how many there would be.
Because there could be a ton of folks with an ability to open Coke bottles mentally, or some, you know what I'm talking about. Absolutely useless, but just some kind of weird power like that. But so I'm assuming that's going to be, but that would still be qualified as a power. I mean, it's like I guess it beats nothing, but I mean, not much. But okay,
yeah, I'm trying to think of what the most useless power would be. That's not in any way useful,
right? It's hard to think about when you put your mind right to it. It's like being invisible only when you can look directly at them. If you see, maybe you can see them out of the corner of your eye, but not directly on. Some strange. He's vaguely hard to see.
Yeah. What if you could grow your fingernail a little bit faster, but only on one finger? Something. It's not stronger at all. It's just something completely useless.
Isn't that in the Venture Brothers? Somebody can grow their. Oh, it's Family Guy. They're doing a knockoff of the Fantastic Four, and Meg can grow her nails. They're not super strong or nothing like that. They just she can just grow her nails long. It's like they're worthless, but they can grow long.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, or maybe you could grow your back hair fast.
At my age, I don't think I need much help with that anymore, brother. That's about the only place I grow hair anymore.
But on command.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me there. I guess you can if you could combine that with somebody that can weave.
Maybe some people can give us some suggestions. We could read them out.
There you go.
Contact at horsefrogproductions.com with your most useless suit powers.
I love it, dude. I can't wait to see the suggestions. Please bring it, folks. We really are serious.
While MM is talking, he is standing next to a table. On the table, there are a number of perfectly aligned piles made up of neatly sealed manila folders. In front of these piles, he has a bunch of Sharpies and pens. They're color-coded and perfectly lined up. The Japanese soup girl is in the other room. She comes in, and like a tornado, she picks up a bunch of the markers and then goes back to the room that she was in. You can see MM was in the middle of a sentence. You can see how it affects him. He stops for a moment, looks at what she's doing, centers himself, takes a deep breath, and then finishes his statement.
So is this what a self-actualization series is supposed to actually look like versus the deeps in the previous episode?
I'm not
would it actually work for real.
I'm not sure what a self-actualization fully entails, but I mean it's absolutely a patience exercise.
I love him. He's so parental here. I mean, and I feel like each thing she picks up, it's like it personally wounds him to his core of his OCD. It's like that's just a wound. It's a wound. It's a wound. It's like
this reminds me of an incident. I completely forgot about it till just now. I was working at Best Buy. It was like 2000. Okay. I was in the computer department and I was helping a man. He had a 3-year-old daughter with him. Okay. He's asking me about video cards.
Okay.
As I'm talking to him, the daughter is taking her arm and just clearing out all the video cards off the shelf and knocking them on the floor, one shelf after the other. And I'm looking at the dad, and I was pretty young at this time. I was say like 20 maybe. Okay. And I'm looking at the dad, expecting him to say something. Doesn't say anything. Just lets her
seriously
keep going. Yeah. Just
Wow.
and this is one of those scenarios where you're just kind of like, I was like this,
Yeah.
where I'm like that exact reaction where I'm like trying to keep it together because I'm the
Keep it
one that has
together.
to clean the stuff up when it's
Keep
done.
it together.
This and
Keep it together.
nowadays video cards are
Oh
expensive.
my, dude.
Some of them are $2,000.
They were expensive back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that back in the day before I ever worked at Fry's, I bought a video card. I think it was in '97, and I think I spent $800 on it then. It was like a 512 megabyte.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Back in '97, that was huge. I mean,
Mhm.
I waited in line, and it was worth it, dude. It was a great video card.
Yep.
But nowadays, these things are they're like almost like several gigabytes, almost half a terabyte or something like that. I don't know how powerful they are.
No, man, they're up to I want to say 32 gigs on kind of the consumer level ones on the higher
Okay.
end. Yeah.
Wow.
Another thing I noticed here on the mat board, even the tacks on the cork board, it's covering the wall. The tacks are color coded and perfectly aligned in vertical lines.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Can we just acknowledge how much, dude, that stuff is set up so beautifully? It's like, I wish I could set something up that nice. I am so terrible. And I can just, like I said, I can feel his pain as she's going through this.
Yeah, he's having his whole setup messed up by this force of chaos.
Yes.
And it's kind of like me with my kids at home,
Right.
because all have to vacuum. So get all the toys off the floor, have them go put them away, and then vacuum. And then within 30 minutes, there's stuff all over the place again.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I sympathize with MM in this case.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. After the presentation is done, Butcher asks, "Are you telling me God's not reaching up the of American girls and blessing babies?" MM asks Butcher, "Can you please leave God out of this?" Butcher just laughs. He's got to be just trolling, right?
He's got to. I think he just tries to get a rise out of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all know somebody that's like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they think they're being funny, and it's really just annoying. But
yeah, well, the thing about Butcher is I'm a troll, but like Butcher is like a corrosive troll, right? Like I joke, but it's good natured generally.
Yeah.
He's like going against their buttons to like.
His insults are never casually funny or like buddy like the Anthony, the example of Anthony, his friend talking to him, you kind of give that good natured ribbing versus everything he says is always so just that he's attacking some deeply personal thing always on every person.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just the worst thing that can get to somebody, and he just puts the screws to that thing and just dials it to 11,
Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm. Huey realizes that no hero is born. They are made by being injected with Compound V, even Starlight. Mm-hmm. Huey wonders if any of the Supes know about this.
Do you think any of the Supes know?
I think at least one does.
I know one does because of the involvement of what he heard, the Homelander Compound V and the Baltimore mayor.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't know. I'm curious if anyone. Well, I'm sorry. I guess A-Train. So we got A-Train and Pop Call. So I guess it's actually pretty widely known then.
Does A-Train know that Compound V is what made him, or does he know the effects Compound V has on him?
Good question. What's an interesting thing? I don't know if this is too deep of an aside, but in the comic book, the boys themselves dose themselves with low doses of Cut V.
They're microdosing?
So that if they were to get, because Butcher brings up the fact that if one of these old boys wants to pop you in the face, he's going to crush your skull.
Mm-hmm.
So they dose a little bit to be able to take a beating.
Interesting that they didn't go that route. I guess they don't have a supply in the show.
That may be, and we may go there. I'm kind of curious where it goes because I'm not too deep into this comic. I'm only about 5 or 6 issues in, but I thought that was an intriguing concept. Mm-hmm. If they're going to be that involved in killing these guys, then you need to be able to take it. Because I mean, you can't go. None of these people could go toe to toe with. If Homelander flicked you like thumping you, he'd knock your head off.
It just seems like he goes for the heat vision.
Yeah, he loves that heat vision,
and I don't know that anything can really defend against that.
No, I don't think so. He's going to slice you in half.
I wonder how it's Apocalypse was the one that killed Superman, right? Or what was the one that kept coming back?
Oh, Doomsday.
Doomsday. How would
Yeah.
Doomsday come back and be invulnerable to that? Would he just the heat vision have no effect on him?
Yeah, I guess it would just have no effect because, that was, again, Superman has never been particularly well written. I have that stuff with Superman. I like him as I like the concept of him, the big, bright, shiny guys. But
So it comes out.
it does come out that he's poorly written.
Okay.
But there was they did bring the story that how Doomsday got there is you kill Doomsday, he comes back to life invulnerable against the last way you killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's been dropped into a sun at one point. So that's why he could stand it to Superman, I'm guessing. But I mean, he just, I don't know how I don't know how you get rid of something like that unless you chuck him in a black hole.
He'll be invulnerable to the black hole.
Well, he'd be on the other side. But you better hope the black hole actually leads somewhere. But I'm assuming it's just but yeah, I guess he'd come back and then it'd be really bad news. It's not bad enough as it is, but it's like, yeah. So yes, I can agree that there are eras of both comics that are all poorly written. And when somebody handles it correctly, you can take poorly written comics and make them good, like the Swamp Thing or the Doom Patrol, which were terrible comics, but brought to life by crazy writers, made some of the craziest stuff I've ever read. Because imagine if somebody wrote The Boys and wrote it poorly, we wouldn't be reviewing it. But if it wasn't Garth Ennis, it wouldn't be as funny. It wouldn't be as vulgar or funny. But there's a certain writers I've discovered have a certain flavor, and this Garth Ennis, man, I love Garth Ennis. You've got to read. I'm gonna have to. You're gonna have to read Preacher.
Okay.
You have to read Preacher. We'll discuss Preacher at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of adaptations that have done a trash job of turning a property into a show.
Yeah.
Butcher thinks for a moment. Then he asks, what about Homelander? Says Homelander is a black hole. Never had any public records and never will. Every other soup is just a juiced up lab rat. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying about the one that knows.
Right.
So there's a reason he has no public records. We'll get to that later this episode.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
At this point, the Japanese soup girl comes back in the room and is rummaging on the table for some paper. In the process, she knocks over one of MM's perfectly organized piles, and it falls on the floor, going everywhere. Says, my God, I'm trying to give a tremendous TED Talk here. And this, he motions to the girl, turns to Frenchie, and asks him to control her. Frenchie tells him he doesn't control her. She goes back into the other room. Butcher summarizes the situation. We got Vought for child endangerment, drug trafficking, and possibly the largest fraud in American history. He thinks Susan at the CIA will love it. Huey goes into the other room to see what the girl is doing. She has papers all over the floor and she's drawing on them. Huey says hi and reaches down to pick up one of the papers and look at it. The girl launches herself forward very aggressively at Huey. Frenchie comes in real quick, clicking its tongue at Huey, telling him, no, not if you are attached to that hand, no. And then he tells the girl it's okay, trying to calm her down a little bit.
Oh, that is so funny. It's like trying to talk a dog. It's like he does her like a dog. No. Like, it's very funny how he does her.
Yeah. It's kind of like an adult talking to a kid that isn't theirs.
Right.
Yeah. It reminds me.
That's me. I'm that guy. I'm that. I've been in the store and told kids, don't talk to your parents that way. No one does it anymore, so I've quit, I guess. But
yeah,
I've given up hope now. But
yeah, most people get offended and start yelling at you for talking to their kid. So you just let them do it. Let them be.
No, how dare you?
This kind of reminds me the way he's handling her like a kid that's not yours. This meme that I saw where it's got Jackie Chan. He's smiling at this girl. She's probably 7-8 years old, and it says like, parenting in public. And then there's another picture of Bolo Young, who was Bolo from Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. And then I think he was in Kickboxer as well, but famous martial artist from the 80s and I guess 70s and 80s. And it's got a picture of him pointing. He's got a crazy look in his eyes, and it's like parenting at home. It's great.
I love that commanding look. Like, I'm going to do what that man is telling me right there. It's like, yes,
Yeah. Frenchie comes back into the room with Butcher and MM. He says all of this, motioning to the evidence, is good. He gives 2 thumbs up, but it's only part of the story. He asks about Petite Lazarus. She's not an infant, and she was injected in a basement, not a hospital. And there is a small matter of she rose from the dead.
Right.
Butcher tells him that his feral pixie dream girl ain't exactly writing her memoirs, is she, Frenchie? Frenchie feels she is trying to communicate. She's been drawing on the papers and the walls. It has to mean something. Butcher thinks they might just be chicken scratches. They do appear to be some derivation of a symbol or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
She draws that circle. I mean, it's so symbolic looking.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not just scratching.
Frenchie wants to find out, but MM tells him no way. He's been burned and it's not safe for him out there. Butcher agrees. Huey asks if he should just keep working on Starlight. Butcher says her phone's been up for a week and asks if Huey knows anything about that. Huey says no, but he can check. Butcher is giving Huey a look like he doesn't believe him. It's a bit of an uncomfortable stare down between them.
Yeah, it is. It's tough.
Butcher says, all right, you're with me. He throws Huey his jacket. Both Huey and MM are surprised at this turn of events. Huey asks if they are going to the CIA lady. Butcher tells him they are going on a little detour. Huey will love it.
I cringe anytime Butcher says, you'll love it.
Yeah, at this point, I should probably feel the same way, but I haven't made the connection yet. I guess I always hope that Butcher will turn out to be the leader I want him to be and not what he actually is.
Right.
You know, I always hope he'll just be good, but he's never good.
Well, he's obviously, he does pull this group together, but he is such a jerk. But at the same time, he is able to hold the group together. So that's got to count for something.
Yeah. Well, his Spice Girl speech was particularly inspiring.
Magnificent.
Yeah.
I think I need to have that framed and put on my wall. Keep me inspired on a daily basis.
In the Vaught Tower, Starlight is walking down the hall towards Madeline's office. We can hear Ashley in Madeline's office yelling, "No, I have been working with her. I've been working with her. I can't believe this. Who the are you going to get to replace me? I'd like to see what that is." As Starlight walks up to the office, Ashley comes out, slamming the door behind her. Starlight asks if Ashley is okay. Ashley looks up and sees Starlight. She chuckles and takes a breath. She compares Starlight to a pledge in a sorority that someone mentors during rush week because she seems sweet and naive. Ultimately, to have her stab them in the back and get them kicked out of the sorority house. Starlight apologizes. She doesn't understand. Ashley tells her it was her big idea to book Starlight for the Believe Expo. She thought, what could go wrong? Starlight was playing to her base.
What?
She says, at least she doesn't have to kiss her anymore, and storms off, throwing her folder against the wall as she does. I love how she claims she doesn't have to kiss her anymore. I don't think she ever kissed her.
I never saw that girl do it.
Maybe the first time they met, maybe on the red carpet when Starlight said, "Are these people here to see me?" And she was like, "Who else would they be here for?" right? But I mean, outside of that, it was all just people management.
And that's just handling. That's not really, it's just handling.
Now, I would like to take a moment for all of you Ashley fans out there who have been really enjoying her inclusion in the show. I would pass my deep condolences to you. I'm sure you're going to be upset that this wonderful character is not the show anymore.
Exactly. And you also have my condolences as well. I know Ashley had a lot of positive qualities, but courtesy and respect are two she does not have. And being from the South, I kind of dig that. I like a little courtesy here. So yeah, I'm so sorry, Ashley, but see ya.
Inside Madeline's office, we can see this painting of Homelander on the wall, and it's a really sick painting. He's doing the dramatic entry pose that he did at the A-Train event when he cracked the concrete when he landed.
Yeah.
There are rays of sunshine coming through the clouds in the background.
That's it. Real nice. We've name dropped Alex Ross's Kingdom Come a couple times. It's very painted, very beautiful picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
Very majestic.
Red Kingdom Come, it's been a decade at least. And I was
Yeah,
trying to
it's been a
see
while.
if there was any specific imagery that reflected this in there. And I didn't see any, but I came across this painting of Magog that he did, who
Yeah,
was the
I
bad
love
guy
that.
in that. And man,
That's
this,
awesome.
the musculature that he has in this picture, it's like perfection.
Yeah, that's
It's,
beautiful.
yeah, I
For comic
was,
book art is quite beautiful. I know comics sometimes by some people it does get looked down upon sometimes, and I like that comic books has come to a different era where people like it and respect it, and stuff like Ross, dude, that's just some gorgeous artwork, dude.
mhm,
No matter how you slice it, it's just good looking.
yeah, I'm gonna use this as motivation, not to be like him, physical goals type thing, you know?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
You don't get shredded like that.
Yeah. Try.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
This image of Magog took me down a rabbit hole. I was trying to read more about the character and got caught up for a moment. Magog debuted in the first issue of the Elseworlds miniseries Kingdom Come in
Hmm.
96.
Okay.
He represents a violent modern style of hero in Kingdom Come storyline. They come into conflict with the classic moralistic heroes of the past.
Okay.
Kingdom Come is rife with biblical references.
Right. Well, Magog himself is particular. Gog, Magog are very biblical, prophetic. Yes.
Right. I didn't know that. But yeah, Gog and Magog are both biblical characters from the book of Genesis, the book of
Yeah.
Ezekiel, and the book of Revelation, as well as their names that appear in a variety of subsequent legends.
As a matter of fact, in a lot of Christian theological circles, a lot of scholars tend to believe and tend to lean, especially more in the Cold War era, thinking that Magog may be pointing toward Russia, and that seems to be a general consensus still to this day amongst a lot of theological scholars.
Is that because communism is anti-religion?
I think it's just because they're a distant enemy. I think more than just anything, they're just such an enemy of freedom, and I think more than anything, an enemy of freedom is also an enemy of it would be also an enemy of religion as well.
Well, isn't that kind of one of the tenets of communism is
Yeah,
you can't have a
yeah,
religion?
yeah. I think that the religion is supposed to be the state. I think it
Hmm.
is supposed to be a religion, but it's supposed to be in the state the religion.
I'm not familiar enough. I just
I'm not
specifically
either.
thought it was no theological religions.
But it's what's funny because I think of it in an aspect that I tend to lean that there is a theological bent, but it is toward the government being
Hmm.
your church almost, as opposed to And also, did you ever read 1984?
No, I'm embarrassed to say
Oh,
I haven't.
serious? Okay. Well, see, I read that in '84. Of
Mm,
course, I would have been about 16, I think, at the time.
hmm.
Yeah, 15. Um, and just because I was told it was really good, and I liked really kind of dark stuff, and it's so prophetic, and the fact about the loss of freedom and the loss of things and when I look at what people give up knowingly and willingly on Facebook is so big brotherish, but they do it so happily versus, the idea of 1984 is that you have a government that's in your house, in your
Hmm.
computer screen, in your television, watching you and telling you, you're not participating in the exercises, you're not doing this, you need to get up and you do this. It's like being told morning, noon, and night what you're supposed to do. We have that fear of a communism and authoritarian ship can be anti-religion and anti-God. Very, very, almost always is.
Hmm. It's interesting how prescient that book is, given the
Very.
way things are going, where
Mhm.
governments are going to try and leverage things like all the cameras that are available. And there's even certain governments that are like trying to read people's thoughts, see if they're paying attention in school, and
Right.
social credit scores and blah, blah, blah. And, it's crazy how
It's weird.
prescient
Yeah.
it was.
It is. It's very present. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was always real scared, and I've had someone recently tell me they thought I was being paranoid. It's like it's like just I may be a bit paranoid in that, but it's like just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean there's not some truth to it and some reason to be a little bit more reluctant to give out such personal information. I
Hmm.
don't have much anyhow. I used to have a CCL, so the government knows everything about me they want to know about me anyhow. I'm on file.
Hmm.
They have my fingerprints.
Yeah. Back to my diversion here. The thing that was really interesting to me in this was the inspiration for this character, the design of the character. The character's appearance is based on that of Marvel's Cable. Magog's character design was based on
it doesn't surprise me at all.
the superhero design trends of the time, especially Cable, and Cable's creator, Rob Liefeld himself. Alex Ross explained the design's decision, and this is a quote. As I remember, Mark originally told me, make him look like everything we hate in modern superhero design. Ross goes into more detail in an interview with Comic Book Resources. That's a character that Mark Waid invented that was really just put to me like, come up with the most god-awful Rob Liefeld sort of design that you can. And I'm quoting, okay? This isn't my words. What I was stealing from was really only two key designs of Rob's. The design of Cable. I hated it. I felt like it looked like they just threw up everything on the character. The scars, the thing going on with his eye, the arm, and what's with all the guns. But the thing is, when I put those elements together with the helmet of Shatterstar, and this is like a kind of a golden helmet that has ram horns on it.
Right.
I think that was his name. Well, he didn't know if it was Shatterstar or somebody else. Well, the ram horns and the gold, suddenly it held together as one of the designs that I felt happiest with in the entire series. And it does look sick.
It does. It's amazing looking.
Now, as a child of the 90s, this Rob Liefeld art, I always liked it, but I've seen a ton of criticism about it online. Particularly what I've heard is people didn't like the way he drew characters' feet. He would put a ton of pouches on them.
Well, the thing for me, you have to understand, I am a comic collector from old school. And when Liefeld and these fellows split off and made the Image comic brand, I was super excited. And I followed these guys. And what's so terrible about Image Comics is that, aside from Spawn, which was a very difficult read, you're spending $2-3 an issue on a comic you want to be able to read for a minute. You don't want to be able to be done in 2 seconds because it's all art. And that's what a majority of Image artwork in comic stores, it take 12 comics to make up one decent sized comic book story because they were all about centerpieces. And of course, with Liefeld, they always jokingly, even himself, talk about can't draw the feet. You got these big center spreads without feet. It's all
right.
But all this big, magnificent artwork with zero story. And apparently in Image, we have a lot of helmets. I don't know what's with the helmets. And the supervillains and heroes wearing the helmets, but it's a very Image thing to my mind.
My experience with Image Comics, two of my favorite comics are published by them. I mean, I love Spawn. I haven't really read a lot of it, but I love the artwork. McFarlane is some of the best stuff.
I have like the first 100 plus, yeah. And I have like some of the first 100 issues of Spawn. I have like, classic stuff.
Right. So
what's your next one?
Saga.
I've heard you mention that.
And Deadly Class.
Oh, Deadly Class. I didn't realize that was Image. Walking Dead is, of course, Image.
Okay.
Image has become good. Image has become good in later years. But when they first started, it was just, you had a clearinghouse of famous artists who had got big in Marvel and DC and other in ways, wanted to start their own comics so they could, control which I understand that's some of the companies like Marvel and DC had in-house versions of this. DC had Vertigo label. Marvel had what's called the Epic label. They were more adult creator content that the creators owned themselves, and they can tell their own stories, and they weren't necessarily part of the canon. And I think that was the excitement about having a comic like Image, which comes along, starts brand new. And it's beautiful because you have all these famous artists, but there's no story except for, McFarlane was the one that spent most of his time. Like I said, Spawn was a hard read. Spawns were hard reads. I mean, it's you got your money worth out of a McFarlane story. And I always appreciated that about Todd. Great artist, great writer.
Yeah. I mean, he invented Carnage and Venom.
Yeah, and Spawn. Yeah,
Spawn's and Spawn. Great. Yeah. Do you like Spawn because of the character or because of kind of the biblical connection, kind of just the theme of it being, angels and demons? And
I like angels and demons stuff. Always have. From a biblical aspect, even when I wasn't really involved in Christianity, I always liked one of my great 80s, 90s movie series, Prophecy. You have Gabriel is played by Christopher Walken in the series, and Gabriel hates humanity. He hates us, man, so bad. And it's a great horror movie. And Viggo Mortensen, the guy that played the King in the Return of the King, he plays Satan before he was anybody. He's Satan in the first.
He had to be pretty young then, huh?
He was very young. in the first prophecy, but you had like Eric Stoltz is one of the good angels, and Gabriel is trying to put a bunch together, a batch of bad guys to come and, so he goes dark side. And they're not great movies, but they're entertaining because I love the biblical concept, and I love it. It's Christopher Walken as Gabriel. You can't lose. It's great.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken is always so menacing. He could read the news and be menacing. And I always find that so funny because he's a professional dancer more than anything else. And he's always so menacing in his acting. I love it.
I was listening to some podcast the other day, and somebody did a Christopher Walken impersonation, and it had me dying laughing. It was so funny. I'll have to think who the person was. Oh, it was what's his name? He used to be on Mad TV. He has been in a bunch of movies.
You're not talking about Kevin Pollak, are you? Because
No.
Kevin Pollak in The Usual Suspects is very famous. I did not realize this.
Yeah, his impersonations are great. I've heard them before. Yeah.
His but he does a brilliant Christopher Walken, and he does the Peter Falk impersonation where he's able to keep the eyes still. So, because Peter Falk had a glass eye, and Peter Falk himself always wanted to know is how do you do that with the eye? How do you sell that impersonation of me with the eye not moving because I have a glass eye? And Kevin Pollak can do it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some of his impersonations, and they had me cracking up.
Well, the first time I saw him, he's such a hardcore guy. He's in The Usual Suspects. That's the first time I ever saw Kevin Pollak, and he's mean. He was great. He's great in that movie.
Yeah, but he was funny. Todd Hackney, his character. Yeah.
He's funny in that. Yeah, Todd Hackney's amazing. I love. Well, he's the reason that they're in jail to begin with. He's the one that denies it. And he's the one that's been stealing the guns that got them all rounded up to begin with.
Brian Callen. You know who Brian Callen is?
I do not.
You would recognize him if you saw him. Have you seen The Hangover?
Yes.
They went to the wedding chapel. He was the guy that officiated the wedding.
Oh, dude, I love that guy, man. He's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, he does voices and impersonations a lot too. But your mention of Christopher Walken, this was just a couple days ago. He did a Christopher Walken impersonation. I died laughing. It was so
check
funny.
him out. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's always he's always playing the foreigner.
His foreign accents are hilarious.
Yes.
It's some Armenian or Greek or like some.
He's always Armenians. I love it's like the Armenians. I think I love the Armenians. They're great, man.
Yeah.
And he's just so spot on with it. I love him.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back on track here.
Copy. Stay on target.
Wow. All of that from a painting on the wall.
We're still only like a page further down from where we were. It's like, wow. Okay.
Madeline tells Starlight to come in. Starlight enters, and Madeline thanks her for coming in. Starlight asks if Madeline fired Ashley. As Starlight sits down, Madeline tells her it was actually a mutual decision. She wanted to explore different career paths, and they wish her well.
I love that corporate doublespeak. Everyone heard that blowout on that floor. You could not hear that when you walk up to that door. She's exploring other career options because we've told her to explore other career options is what's going on there.
Yeah. Madeline gets right to the point. She tells Starlight that she wants her to take this feedback in the constructive spirit that it's intended. Starlight looks at her for a moment, then says, okay. Madeline goes full bore on her, stating, you are a selfish, arrogant child. Back in Iowa, I bet you watched a lot of Queen Babes movies, right? Starlight confirms she did. Madeline continues, she was a rebel, didn't take anyone, didn't play by the rules. That's what you wanted to be. That's what American heroes are, but it's a myth. I should know because I wrote it. The truth is, dozens of people in this company spent hundreds of hours to create the thing that is you. I want to touch on this point about American heroes being rebels. Our forefathers certainly were.
Dude, I think that what always worries me so much about this generation is the fact that so many of the young people do not realize just how amazing these individuals were that founded our country. And these people, I know we have so many people nowadays complaining about living here. It's like, you know what? You live in a country, you live in one of the few places where you can do that, where you can complain about it. I would love these people that complain about how dreadful it is here I don't even want them to go to Africa. Go to Mexico for like 6 months and see if you can hack it down there.
Well, I don't know if it's that bad. I mean, like I've heard a lot of good things about some areas maybe, but
No, I'm assuming Mexico's real nice,
yeah,
but
okay.
but there's a lot of poverty in Mexico. That
There is, but I mean, okay. So let's be fair. There's areas of the United States that are you would not want to go either, right? That are
absolutely,
poverty
absolutely,
stricken. Okay, so you talk about Virginia, like by all the coal areas, they have a lot of trailer parks and people that don't have a lot
sure.
of economic opportunity. So that's one example. But I've heard Mexico City is supposed to have some really nice areas, and
Oh, I know it's
yeah,
it's a beautiful country.
hmm yeah,
I mean, I know that it's supposed to be just gorgeous country. I'm just talking about more inherently how it's run and how that that there is a bigger. I think there's a bigger spread between the haves and the have-nots in Mexico than there are.
mm,
I know that we have a lot of poor places here in America, but
hmm
but here a lot of our poverty even sometimes doesn't compare to poverty in other countries.
hmm
Sometimes a lot of our people that think that they live in poverty don't really understand what true poverty is. And I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that I haven't benefited from this myself. I'm just pointing out the fact that a lot of people, we don't really know what a lot of suffering is in this
Yeah,
country.
to
We
your
think
okay,
we do.
to that point, when I went to Nigeria, they don't have 24-hour power there for a lot of the people.
Right.
It's not even a matter of having air conditioning. It's a matter of your refrigerator is not going to run for 24 hours a
Right.
day, right? If you have a hot
Right.
water heater and it's electric, you're not going to have that running for 24 hours. They don't
Yeah.
even have running water in some areas, right? So
Yeah.
these are things we take for granted here, but there
Yeah.
are areas in the United States like Flint, Michigan, where they
Sure.
didn't maintain their pipes and people are being poisoned by lead. So what's
Oh my
worse,
word.
having
Yeah.
that or no water at all, right? So I mean, you tell me.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Uh,
It's a good
so
question.
either way, back to the point, the way people I've heard some people characterizing our forefathers is, oh, they were just white men that didn't want to pay their taxes. Incredibly reductive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. But either way, on the topic of American heroes being rebels, I thought it was interesting that Madeline characterized heroes this way of America.
Yes.
And what does that mean anymore today? Is it simply someone that isn't afraid to speak their beliefs, like that they, even if something could be held against them, they're willing to stand up and speak whatever they believe in?
I was like, did you phrase that again? You're asking me what?
Okay. So what is it? So today, what is a hero in America?
Oh, what is a hero? That's I think you hit part of it right there. I think that's correct. The person is willing to stand up for their own beliefs is a big deal. I also, but the guys that I call heroes right now are a lot of people that don't want to call them heroes, and I think that we'd be foolish to not admit that most of our cops and most of our firemen are heroes. People that are willing to help us to save us in spite of their own best interest. These guys try to help us. Those are heroes to me. I'm also a big military hoe. I love our guys. We have the freedom to discuss this because of our freedom. We have our
Hmm
freedom because of our military. I mean, because of people willing to strap on for us.
hmm Okay.
So that's but I think very much a person that's willing to stand up for what they believe and and not worry about what people say about them. That's a very heroic quality, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. People that are willing to serve other people, put other people's well-being above their own,
Yeah,
putting their
nicely
life
put.
in danger to protect other people, those are heroes. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nicely put too.
Yeah.
Thank you. You made me sound like I actually knew what I was saying there.
I did kind of gloss over it and you had a very excellent point there. So thanks for reminding
Thank you,
me.
sir.
Yep. Yeah. And we're recording this on Memorial Day, so I should have been thinking about that
That is
already.
true.
Yeah.
Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, guys. We appreciate all those people that did it for us, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We do. Starlight says she never asked for that. Madeline asks her why she doesn't burn her sparkly outfit and become a cop. She asserts that Starlight wants to be a superhero. She wants to be famous, but no one is famous alone. She asks Starlight to cut the petulant diva shit, show a little gratitude, and let us do our job.
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah. Starlight thinks for a while. Then she simply says, no.
Love it. Love it.
Madeline, not used to hearing this kind of language, says, I'm sorry?
Right? I don't think anyone says, I don't even think Homelander says no to her.
Of course not. That's mommy.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
That's so creepy.
It is very creepy, but very true.
Starlight says she doesn't mean to be ungrateful, but no red carpets, no reality TV, and no Noxzema commercials. And she wants her old uniform back. She's going to save people. Madeline tells her that they may need to reconsider her position in the Seven. Starlight comes back. She thinks that Vought firing an employee after she reported what happened to her, we're alluding to the situation with the Deep, would tank the stock price. Madeline tells her that they hope they can count on Starlight's discretion.
I like, man, she changes on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
Madeline immediately goes from telling you petulant little thing to, well, we really appreciate you not saying anything tonight. Real quick, you know.
I guess she's realizing that Starlight has a little bit more power.
Yeah.
Starlight knows she has a little bit more power in this situation. Yeah.
Starlight reads that she actually owns this situation. I love it.
Starlight tells her she doesn't do discretion anymore. If anyone asks her, she is going to answer honestly. Madeline tells her it's great Starlight wants to tell the truth. She just doesn't know who Starlight is talking about. Starlight thinks Madeline knows exactly who she's talking about and has known for a long time. Madeline thanks Starlight for coming and says she has a lot to think about. After Starlight leaves, Madeline knocks something over on her desk in frustration and puts her hands on her head, taking a deep breath. She really kept her composure during that meeting.
Absolutely.
I mean, except her kind of really getting into her at the beginning. But even though it was said calmly, it was just kind of really mean-spirited, right?
She never, no. She said it all. She even when balling her out, she was still pretty, even keel.
Right. And then she kept it together as she was losing control of the situation.
Yeah,
really held it together until she was out of the room before she lets it loose. Very good job.
Very good job. I couldn't have done that.
It's hard to keep your emotions in check when you're put in those kind of situations. And good leaders are generally, they've mastered their emotions to the point where they can keep it in check in front of people.
Yeah. And I have a lot of respect for that. Mm-hmm. I respect people that can keep their composure.
Yeah. What do you think about Starlight taking this approach in this situation? I'm not sure I entirely like the feel of it. It's almost like blackmail.
It is very much like blackmail, but I think part of me, I don't dislike it because of the fact that the fact that when Starlight came in that room, she was there and Madeline was there to put her in her place and to tell her who she was, as opposed to cut this crap. But at the same time, it's like Starlight has been a victim of one of your superpowered bullies here. You're lucky that this didn't come out earlier, and be glad Starlight's been as cool as she is being about it. Because she could have gone straight to TMZ. Those guys would have loved to. Those old boys would have loved to got a hold of that. You know.
Yeah.
Anybody would have loved to got a hold of that. NNC would have loved it. And their Earth's counterpart CNN even would like to have got a hold of that as well.
Yeah. The Deep is filming his piece of Super in America propaganda. He is at a beach with some volunteers cleaning up trash. On the screen, there is a website, greencrusaders.org. Out of curiosity, I went to the website, and it actually takes you to sonypictures.com. So they actually own this website. That's and awesome, there's your answer on why everyone is using Sony phones, the Sony camera equipment that they show filming this episode, because the camera crews are out and about. It's all Sony stuff. So yeah, that's your answer right there. Yeah.
Brought to you by the Seven.
There's also a #VaughtCares Twitter tag on the bottom of the screen.
I love that.
Yeah. The Deep is talking about an example of Tech Knight's Night Racer having a carbon footprint the size of a Boeing 727. Now, thanks to the Deep, he drives a hybrid. You got to wonder what this car looked like. It had to be some Camaro V8.
You know, I think I'm thinking old school Adam West Batman. Dude, it's the old Batmobile with the jet shooting out the back kind of deal.
Oh no, Tech Knight! I'm seeing it now. Is it Batman? No.
Is it?
I hope not. No.
I'll join you.
No way.
Is Tech Knight going to be the Batman of the boys?
No. Okay,
I'm sorry.
We're going to move on.
No. Is he? Is he the Blue Beetle of the? I'll help you out here. Is he the Blue Beetle?
I don't know
this universe?
Who's the Blue Beetle?
another costumed billionaire, eccentric inventor, Green Arrow, Batman. It's one of these. There's Batman, and Batman has spawned 30 different knockoffs. You got the Green Arrow, it's the same guy. You've got Nighthawk from Marvel, which is basically the same guy. Iron Man's the same guy. It's like they're all kind of the same guy. I mean, it's Blue Beetle's more closer. I guess to be fair, Blue Beetle will be closer to Stark.
Okay.
He has a family business of electronics, and therefore he would be more akin to a Stark than to a Wayne.
Okay.
But I guess but eccentric billionaire, I think, fits all these guys though. Who else has the time to do this?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Because you can't do it on what it's like. I'm trying to pay my apartment rent. I don't think I could go out and fight crime at night, dude.
You got time to podcast at night?
That's true.
What's stopping you from being a hero? No.
I guess I could go cruising through downtown. I could go cruising around my town. With a nightstick in my 45.
Oh, no.
It would be the enforcer.
That's your name, the enforcer?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there may be another enforcer for another town, so I guess I'd have to be the Kerrville enforcer versus like the San Antonio enforcer. Maybe I could sell this as some kind of like vigilante rights.
Wow. The Deep says that's what the Green Crusader Initiative is all about: to respect what's beautiful in the world. Something off camera catches his attention, and he does a double take. This really attractive girl walks into frame. She's one of the volunteers. He says, "What's up?" And she bashfully says hi and keeps walking out of frame. He turns and watches her leave. There's also an older man behind him that's one of the volunteers. He also watches her leave.
Well, let's face it, she is attractive, but I like how the Deep, in the middle of trying to make himself look good, can't stop himself from going, "What's up?"
Yeah.
What's up, man? I love it.
He collects himself and then he says, "So everything." He sighs and he says, "So beautiful."
So beautiful. So beautiful.
The director tells them to reset the scene. This is amazing. All of the volunteers are asked to take the trash they picked up out of their bags and put it back on the beach again.
There's nothing quite as exciting as watching people artfully arrange trash for the most impact for a shot, is there?
Some of that's blown away. The hypocrisy. It's just, it's all for show, man.
Oh, it's awesome.
We go to A-Train, who is recording his piece now. He's sitting on some bleachers. He's telling his origin story. He's talking about how he lost his dad at a young age and his mom worked 2 jobs. So it was his older brother, Nathan, who raised him up. We've seen his brother, Nathan, in episode 2, where he was with A-Train at the race of the century.
Right.
A-Train tells a story of when he was 3 and some people started shooting outside his building and he outran the bullet. And that's kind of how he figured out. He's interrupted by Courtney. She asks him to, air quotes, ixnay the gun violence and maybe make it a click more upbeat. And here we are. I mean, they get rid of Ashley and they bring in somebody just like
Ashley
her.
2.0.
Yeah, it's so cringe, man.
Yeah, it's very cringe. And I love how you can't even talk about, something that might actually be a good story for this guy. And it's like he can't even tell you his origin story because there's gun violence in the origin story.
It's a critical moment in his life, and I feel it's really disrespectful to gloss over it. This is like one of those superhero wakes up moments. Let me give you a couple examples of them.
Okay.
Your favorite Superman, the scene where he's a kid jumping through the fields and he's jumping super far. I think that might have been Superman Returns. You remember that one?
Okay. Oh, okay.
There might have been some other ones in the earlier ones, right? When they're exploring their powers for the first time.
Now, I will, as much as I love Superman, in all honesty, I have only seen the first 2 Supermen from the 70s with Christopher Reeve, which, let's hear it for the late, great Christopher Reeve. Those were magnificent movies, even though they're kind of cheesy by today's standards.
Gene Hackman is Lex Luthor.
Dude, because Gene Hackman is amazing, dude. It doesn't matter if he's a comic version of Lex Luthor. I love Gene Hackman. He's wonderful. I just can't. You can't lose with Gene. I just love that old boy.
Right.
But those are such good movies. But I saw that one, the Brandon Routh one, the Superman Returns. I bet the only thing I can remember is I remember him arriving and saving the plane, like we talked about, and being shot in the eyeball and having that thing bounce off his eyeball is all I can ever remember.
Oddly enough, those are the two things I've quoted that we've talked about in this podcast.
Yeah. I know that we talked about the bullet.
That had Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. And
Yes.
I think he's a good actor. Taking him as a person outside of
Kevin Spacey's great, man.
Whatever his behavior is outside of it, as an actor, I've always thought he was a good actor. Yeah.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
But when we talk about the gun violence thing, I of course remind myself of, do you remember the South Park episode? We're always going to reference South Park, people, on the Spielberg and Lucas replacing all the guns in their movies with walkie-talkies.
No.
In the updating of their films, yes. And the boys are protesting Spielberg and the directors updating their movies to make them more modern. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, to make their movies more family friendly, they have removed like all the challenge. Like they're no longer called mm-hmm. Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're people with opposed viewpoints and other things like this. But this is 10 or 15 years ago, and they were so ahead of the curve on that. But they replace all the guns in their movies with guys with walkie-talkies and a bunch of Ewoks.
Able to take down a Imperial military in an indigenous forest fight.
Are we going to have to cover the Star Wars stuff at some point in our career?
I don't know how deep you want to go into that with me, because as a teenager, I read every single book that existed for Star Wars.
See, I only read the Timothy Zahn ones.
Oh, but those were the best ones.
Those are the most magnificent ones, and I'm so excited because I don't know. Did you see that they introduced Thrawn?
Oh man,
in The Mandalorian.
My reaction when that happened, I was like, my kids were like, "What's wrong?" And I was I
about fainted, dude. I loved it. I was so excited when I saw Thrawn. You want to talk about one? He's
the greatest. Okay, I can't. I don't know. I don't know if I can say the greatest because Darth Vader is so good, but
no, he's great. He's better because I think I'm like you. I think I like him better because of the fact that he's the kind of guy that you could imagine being the guy that you want to fight for.
Yeah.
He's that kind of general, that kind of admiral. He didn't see people as disposable like Vader. People want to fight for Thrawn. I think Thrawn inspires that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited, really, really excited about Thrawn.
Yeah.
Woo, super excited. I'm glad you like that guy like I do. I love that dude.
Yeah. Yet another thing we share. The point that I was making was this is one of those hero wakes up moments and they're trying to gloss over it just because of the gun violence, right?
Right. Yeah.
A-Train seems a little off-put, but he continues anyway. We're treated to some scenes of A-Train actually practicing. His brother is coaching him. A-Train is off his pace. The brother is asking him what's going on with him. Side note, he's not on Compound V. That's what's going on with him.
Right.
They're back on the bleachers. Courtney asks A-Train if he knew Popclaw since they were on teenage kicks together. She says publicly they're saying it was a stroke, but between them, it was maybe a drug overdose. She asks if he wants to say something in her honor. He's acting uncomfortable, and he says he hasn't seen her in years. He's shaking his head and looks away. He looks like he's getting really emotional. You can tell he's kind of almost holding back tears. I think his acting's like, it's really good. It's right there.
Good. Yeah, he's really good. Well, especially because we start this conversation where he actually is telling something positive or what could be positive and is shut down on it. So you're kind of we see him really run the gamut from this, going to tell a great upbeat story to him, so you watch this actor run through all of his chops real quick. It's kind of, that's impressive. Mm-hmm. That's good work, man. Yeah. It's really good acting.
And then one point I wanted to make here is what happened to keeping it upbeat?
Right.
I mean, are we keeping it upbeat?
Trying to keep it upbeat.
Or is there another reason why we don't want to talk about this gun violence? I mean, what's really happening here,
Good question. Question.
Maeve is in an elevator at Vought Tower. The elevator stops and Starlight enters. Maeve tells her she is really milking this thing for all it's worth. Starlight turns to her and says, "Excuse me?" Maeve clarifies, "This Empowerment Act, every time I'm on a red carpet now, they're asking me how I'm supporting Starlight. But hey, as long as you're trending, right?"
Wow. Wow.
It's the darkest viewpoint.
It is. Goodness. Love that. So, you're cutting in on my trending stuff. I love when they talk about their trending numbers. That's so funny.
I think in this case, she is just looking at it from the lens that she is programmed to view things now, where it's all
Sure.
about trying to get attention, get views.
Right.
Looking at it through that lens, the only possibility she can see is that Starlight is playing this up only for that point.
Right. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Starlight clarifies to her, saying she knows Maeve might not get this, but it's not an act. She's just trying to be honest. Maeve doesn't believe her. Starlight sees her reaction, and she decides to tell her a story. When I was younger, I read your autobiography so many times that I wore it out. I had to buy a second one. I wanted to live my life exactly like yours because you didn't just break all the bones in your right arm stopping that school bus from falling off a bridge, but you also went to every kid's physical therapy afterwards just to show the world that they were heroes too. As she is talking, Maeve looks down. She can't meet her gaze while she's telling this story.
Well, that's embarrassing. Shames her.
Starlight continues, you really stood for something. But now I'm pretty sure that was just written by the marketing guys. The elevator stops on Starlight's floor, and she gets out. Side note, there is a movie poster on the wall for A Train in rapid transit when she gets out. What do you think that could be about? A problem on a bullet train? He's got to speed up to catch it.
I don't know. I love how you see more the more that we look at the show. I'm like, I don't even notice that stuff. And it's so funny. I'm like, yeah, it's got to be a bullet train. That's is it no different than speed? You've got a fast object. I don't know. It's funny, pretty funny, but it's got to be a bullet train now that you mention it. I'm sure it probably is. That is too funny.
Frenchie is sitting on a couch watching Shark Week. Every time we see him watching TV, it's some nature documentary. You must only watch Discovery Channel or something, huh?
I love it, man. It is. And I'm like you, where it's like, I just love that it's Shark Week. I don't know why it's so funny because it's about the only time I watch Discovery too. I don't know why I want to see them big boys do things. I just love sharks. But she's got in the Japanese soup kind of like a shark a little bit right now as we're getting to know her.
What aspect of her do you see as being a shark?
Well, when she was fighting, those couple times we've seen her fight, how she just lashes out and just tears people, just tears into them physically, is, very much like a shark tearing into somebody to like kill or like to prey or something like that. But now I know part of that is also going to be that she's also we don't know anything about her yet. We're still in the process of learning about her. We will learn more about her. But right now she just appears to just be almost not much. She's pretty feral. Almost.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that's the only reason I see her that way at the moment. Just kind of feral.
Okay. I was just seeing if there was some aspect that I was missing that maybe indicated she had kind of shark behavior or shark traits.
Oh no, I just think mostly she's just pretty harsh. And I think, and I love that sharks are fascinating. They're just such fascinating machines, dude.
Brutal, man.
Absolutely brutal.
I think what gets me is when you see them with like chunks of meat hanging off their teeth. It's like rips stuff apart. It's crazy, man.
Well, it's like they say some of those old sharks, what's it, the bull ones or some of those, they're apparently like the goats of the ocean too. They'll eat anything. They find like license plates in these guys' guts all the time when they cut them open. You're like, hey, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I just felt like eating a license plate someday. I'm like, okay, far out. I guess I'm not going to argue with that. Eat whatever you want. It's like, go ahead. Just don't be me, please.
Yeah. The Japanese soup girl sits down on the couch next to him. He is surprised and asks her if she would like him to change the channel. She actually responds and shakes her head. Frenchie is super excited. He looks at MM and says she talked to him. MM, who's sitting at the table working on his research, says, that's talking? Frenchie says, well, she communicated at least. She likes Shark Week. MM, being a smart says, he'll call BuzzFeed. Frenchie wonders if she lived by the water. He looks over at MM, who sees him looking at him. MM goes back to work. Frenchie gets up and walks over to sit by MM. He tells him, you can't fool me. Who is she? What does she want? Why is she here? She could be the key to it all. That's what you think, huh? MM says, no, that's not what I think. Frenchie says, yes, you do. It torments you. It's okay. Listen, I got one word for you. It's a surefire way to solve this puzzle once and for all. MM says, tell me. Mesmer. That's the word Frenchie comes up with. Says, you want help from a soup? Frenchie goes on that Mesmer despises Vought, hates them, hates the other soups, and the enemy of your enemy, supposedly your friend, right?
Right, and said,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Asks Frenchie, what part of you're burned do you not understand? Frenchie tells him it's a quick trip and the girl and Frenchie can hide in the van. He says, let's go now. Boom, bing. He's snapping his fingers as he's talking. He's putting a lot of positive energy into this proposal.
I love it. I love it.
Says, boom, bing. Look, I'll tell you what I can do. I can possibly tattoo no on your It's so great.
Oh my word.
And Frenchie jumps out of his chair in frustration. He throws his arms up. He says, come on, waving his hands.
Come on.
MM says, it's the best I can do.
It's the best I can do.
Frenchie says, you know, I've seen you eat ice cream. MM says, oh my God. Frenchie continues, Chunky Monkey, I believe. MM wants to know, where is this going? Frenchie says, well, you know, you take a spoonful, a chunk of fudge perhaps, but then I see you with the surface is uneven. So what do? You take another scoop, you try to even it out, which tragically creates a corresponding divot. Ultimately, there is only but one choice for you, no? To consume the entire pint. MM drops his pen on the table and slams his hands down. Frenchie says, no, you don't want to, but you must. And I tell you why, my friend, because you cannot bear things out of order. And she, he turns and points to the girl, is out of order.
Absolutely.
MM is looking at him. Frenchie got through to him again. This is the second time he's done this in this show that we've seen.
Yes.
He's made his point. This conversation is incredible. I was cracking up, watching it multiple times, cracking up, reading it. I mean, it's I love how eloquently he covers the topic. He is 100% right on how he evaluates MM.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love how he sizes them up with the evenness on the ice cream. That's so funny. And we know this because we've seen the evenness bothering him on what we've seen. His evenness with his desk at the facility he worked at, the evenness with the soup, going through his paperwork, just driving him nuts, but he's still maintaining his composure. But yeah, I know it bothers him.
Yeah.
He's shown us this.
I think I really identify with his struggle that's being described here because I have these same impulses, right? But I live in a house with 5 other people. You know, I've got 4 kids, my wife.
Right.
And it's an impossibility, literally, to have everything in order, right? So to keep my sanity, like I have 2 spaces that I've identified where those can be kept to this standard. So my work desk and then my workout area.
Okay.
And outside of that, I just kind of...
Well, it's kind of funny because, you know, I also come from a family where we do have OCD issues. And my brother and my father both are like nothing out of place. I mean, dude, those kind of things drive them nuts. I don't have that. I'm the guy that mine is I wish it was it sometimes, but mine is over like when I leave my house over door locking. I'll lock it 5 times. I'll check it and I'll lock it one more time to get in my car. And if I've had a nerve-wracking day, if something's bothering me, I'll get out of my car again and check the door one more time. See, I have that kind of, you know, it's also about like filing things like in my organization system, but it makes no sense to anyone but myself. But you know, like I said, that's my OCD. I wish I had more like things were in its place. I've worked on being cleaner since I've moved, but I'm still, that's a struggle for me, but I've done good at it, but I'm not OCD on it. I wish I was.
Yeah, I have my specific things. Like sometimes if I don't actually verbalize the fact that I closed the garage door before I left, sometimes I'll be leaving the neighborhood and I'm generally pretty good about remembering to do this stuff. So likely it's closed, but I will actually turn around and come back to verify that it's closed. Sometimes
I've done that. I'll do
like
that exact same thing. And if I, and so verbalizing is good for me. And especially like the woman I'm seeing, I'll ask her, did I lock the door? Yeah. Okay. I can trust her word that I did in fact lock the door. I don't need to go back, but I'm like, so Well, thank God I don't feel alone. We just found out that we had that
Yeah, I'm
alike.
sure there's a lot of people that have their specific things, and
Oh yeah,
it's various degrees, right, of compulsions that
yes.
people have. Yeah.
Mine's usually pretty good unless I'm having some stress.
Hmm.
Usually, if I have stress, then they'll surface.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably that way for everyone. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'm not familiar enough with it to know. But actually, so this
Yeah.
reminds me of that movie "As Good as It Gets" with Jack Nicholson, where he was obsessive
Oh
compulsive.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great movie, man.
Oh, it's a fan. Oh my word, he's
Mhm.
fantastic in that
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, that I have. Yeah, I don't have to do it a certain number of times, but I have to do it at least more than
Mm.
twice. It's kind of one of these things. I don't know why I'm like that. And like I say, sometimes I'm okay, sometimes I'm not. But yeah,
Hmm.
but I kind of understand that as good as it gets a little
Hmm.
bit. I'm glad I'm not that bad. Thank God I'm not
Hmm.
that bad.
Yeah, that'd be bad to deal with.
Oh, that'd
Yeah.
be a nightmare.
All right.
Yeah, that make life a nightmare.
Okay. Butcher and Huey are walking to their destination. Huey asks if Butcher is going to tell them where they're going. Butcher smiles at Huey and tells him he doesn't do it anymore. Huey asks, "What?" Butcher goes on, "You know the feeling you get when you tip your chair back too far and you catch yourself just before you fall?" Huey confirms he knows the feeling. Butcher says, "You used to look like that all day long, but now look at you. Neck deep in cool as a cucumber. You ain't half the I thought you were, Huey." Huey tells him, "You're always calling people or but I never really got how that's an insult. They're flexible, take a pounding, and they're the reason behind like 98% of my life decisions." Huey with the wit
Oh,
again. Butcher tells him he's doing good and he's a good. For once, we see Butcher is being nice. Do not get used to it.
well, is he being nice, or is he just pointing out that he notices the changes in
I
Huey?
interpreted it as him being nice, but
Okay, it could be. I
but
mean, I can see that.
I want him to be nice. So there's a little bit
Yeah,
of bias
I
there.
do
That's
too.
what.
I do too. I always hold out hope.
Yeah. They have arrived at their destination, a church. Butcher turns to Huey and says, "Seek and ye shall find me, son." They have come to attend a meeting for the ACDS, the Association of Collateral Damage Survivors. They grab 2 chairs and join the group. Someone is telling a story. She is a woman. She wanted to talk to her friend about something and couldn't. That is why this group is so great. It's so important. She says, "I know it's wrong to feel angry. After all, Tech Knight saved me. I just wish he'd been a little more gentle with my spine." She is sitting in a wheelchair, a paraplegic. The ACDS chair, Lydia, says, "It's about acceptance, isn't it? Letting go, moving on." We see Huey looking at Butcher, probably wondering why they came here. Seth is called on to speak. Coincidentally, this is the same Seth that is on the Vought marketing team. We've seen him before in this show.
Right. Yeah.
He begins his story.
Are these are one of our 2 men that do not exude
Masculine
much
energy.
masculine
Yeah.
energy?
And we're going to find out why Seth doesn't have much masculine energy in a moment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He says,
This is maybe why he's able to be so focused in life nowadays.
"So I'm kind of a writer. I work in marketing. There's this one hero who shall remain nameless, but has ice powers." Butcher snaps his fingers and says, "Ice Princess."
Ice Princess. I love it. Ice Princess.
Seth says, "I'm not allowed to say. Anyway, she took a liking to me. It was heady, man. Intoxicating. No one wants to the writer. Needless to say, I fell for her big time." Butcher whispers to Huey, "What kind of knobber falls for a soup?" Now we see why Butcher brought Huey here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seth says, "Anyway, we were, being intimate when she climaxed and accidentally turned into ice. Just for a second. But it was still in there at negative 346 degrees. Same temperature as liquid nitrogen. As you can imagine, it snapped off. Everyone in the room gasps. The men are cringing.
I'm cringing.
I'm cringing. Yep. Seth goes on, "The crazy thing is, I still miss her. It's like That's the cost of a mortal like me for being with a god like her. Butcher again whispers to Huey, if a soup done that when she was happy, imagine what one would do if she found out you'd been lying to her from the get-go. Lydia notices Butcher's behavior and asks if he has something he'd like to share. Butcher apologizes and says, please do continue the ice-capades. It's absolute savagery. I mean, just
that's so harsh.
just the disrespect and
It's hateful.
lack of compassion for Seth.
Compassion.
I mean,
yeah. I don't know if he has compassion for any other human being, or unless Becca was the only one he had any sympathy for.
That's been stripped out of him, I think. Yeah.
I've been taken away. Yeah.
Lydia tells him they don't make jokes or judgments here. Why doesn't Butcher take the talking stick and tell them his story? He says, nah, I'm good. Lydia says, I've seen guys like you before. He says, I seriously doubt that. Lydia continues, the smirk, the jokes, it's all a defense mechanism, but you don't have to do that here. This is a safe space. Butcher repeats, nah, I'm good. It's time to move on. Lydia tells Seth to hand Butcher the talking stick. Seth gets up and goes to hand Butcher the stick. Butcher jumps up very aggressively and tells Seth, you back off, or I'll shove this stick where your used to be.
Wow.
Seth is looking scared. Butcher looks around and says, you're a bunch of pathetic soup-worshipping I bet you'd thank a soup if they on your mom's best china. He points at the woman in the wheelchair and says, did it ever occur to you that they split your spine? Then he points at Seth and says, or broke your just for a laugh? He starts yelling, where's your rage, your self-respect, sitting here in your little share circle, having a whinge and a moan, letting go. You should be out there with the chainsaw, going after him. Just a bunch of scared rabbits.
Now, as bad as Butcher is here, there is a little bit of truth in what he is saying. These people do, I mean, you do have to let go of some things to move on, but some things you don't, have to let go. There are some things that you can hold on to righteously, I think, and over certain kinds of anger and things like that and outrage, you can be angry over that. And being as how these people are victims, they need to approach the fact that it's almost like they're making, like, especially Seth, he's still talking about missing this woman. He does worship her almost. It's kind of weird, man.
Okay. Where is the line?
That's a really good question. Because I don't know where the line is.
I spent a lot of my life holding grudges, and the wrongs that they were grudges for were nothing in comparison to this, minuscule in comparison. I learned that letting them go was the right thing to do. And once I did let them go, I realized how much energy they were taking from me.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I've done the same, dude. I mean, it eats up, when you can't let it go, it eats up all your time thinking about it, dwelling on it, wasting your energy and just living off you. It's like a parasite.
So where's the line?
And I don't know.
Because I'll give you an example. One case that really stuck with me.
In this situation where the line is.
One case that really stuck with me was the affluenza case when we were living up in Dallas. Do you remember this story?
I vaguely remember, but I can't remember exactly what.
16-year-old kid drunk driving kills 4 people, 4 teenagers driving a car. Okay.
Right.
His claim in court was that he was too rich to realize the implications of his actions. Affluenza.
Right. That's right.
Okay. So gets off with probation, I think.
He got off real light. I remember that.
A couple years later, caught again. He's not supposed to be out partying and drinking. He's partying and drinking again. So obviously didn't learn anything from it, right? Now, imagine you're the parent of one of those kids that got killed. What are you just supposed to let it go? Like where is the line?
Personally, it's like, especially the problem doesn't lie so much in a situation like this for me. The fact that we as a society failed to punish this little punk for doing what he did is more of an indictment to me on like the judge or other people involved in this. And it's like because the victim is he needs to be punished. I believe that I'm a big believer in do the crime, do the
Mm-hmm.
time. And especially when it comes into this scenario where you've killed somebody. Now, if it's one thing if it's a vehicular manslaughter, you lose control of your car because you hit a pothole and something like that happens, and it's not that. You've gotten drunk and taken someone's life, and you should be punished. We have laws for that, and we let people skate because of his age and because of some terrible affluenza bull. I mean, they when a kid who has made a ton of victims claims to be the victim himself, that stuff makes me so morally sick. Trying to claim to be the victim in this. They need to pay the crime so that people can have a sense that there is some sense of justice of some. I mean, I know a lot of times there's not, but this is why we have a quote unquote justice system.
When I think of the cost of harboring the grudge and you escalate it to the level of something like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be an incredible burden to bear on top of losing the family member or whatever the issue was. Maybe they hurt you directly or something like that, right? I just have to wonder. I mean, I guess this is one of those human questions, like what the right answer is.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this is the problem that we also have is there is no uniform solution. There is a pretty uniform solution that tends to fit a majority of cases, but there's a lot of stuff that always falls outside individual certain things. But I do believe that people, let's say that even this kid with the affluenza, let's say he was punished properly, and the people, what the people who see a person get punished do with that is on them at that point. I kind of feel. It's like if you go on and make bad life choices, you have to let go. Even some people aren't going to let anything go, even if someone's paid the price for it. But because some people I think they get hooked on that weird. Like I think some people in a case of a wrongful death, they probably think in some way they're trying to keep their memory or something alive of them, and not realizing the great disservice they're actually doing that memory or to themselves in a healthy manner. So I don't, everyone is so different. I used to have a harder time when I was younger letting things go, but as I've gotten older, I've become very easy to let things go because I'm like, why am I going to waste my time on that? Because I have less life in front of me, I'm assuming, than I do behind me at this point.
Isn't there some teachings about forgiveness and what it gives the person that forgives?
There is, and I'm not going to be really well versed on this in particular. My reason for always being able to let anything go is I think about like when we talked about in the episode before when I talk about Christianity in general and that Christ died for our sins. So he died for everything. So if somebody's gone through that much for me, why should I hold on to anything? And why we should let go just because it makes your life better to let things go. I mean, some of that stuff is taught in the Old Testament and more of the books of Proverbs, which are, it's what it says. They're Proverbs. I mean, Proverbs are good sayings. Wisdom sayings sometimes help. And so it's kind of, there's talks about living in places with contentious people. It's better to basically live on the roof of a house than to live in than to share a roof with a contentious wife. Yeah, right. So, and there's about 3 different versions of the same proverb. It's what's so funny, and by the same person. So and I think that's just a happy living for even non-believers. I think if people look at Proverbs, there's a lot of wisdom in there just to let things go because it's not worth. Like I said, you don't know how long you've got. We don't know. Life is. Don't want to be living life carrying some something not worth carrying.
Okay, thanks for that.
And anger is a hard thing to carry anyhow. Like I said, because we've talked about the revenge thing, digging 2 graves. It's that kind of stuff. It burns you out. I mean, that's why you dig the 2 graves because it's going to the act of doing it could possibly kill you. So just let it go, man.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't kill you, what is left of you isn't going to be much. Yeah,
that's right.
Butcher turns to leave and drops the stick on the floor. As he passes Huey, he says, "Soups are all the same. Every one of them." Huey gets up. He apologizes for Butcher as he leaves. Back in the Vought Tower, someone is installing a freshly created bust of Starlight in a hallway, adding to the busts of the other members of the 7. Madeline is walking down the hallway. She seems to be in a hurry. and the Deep comes out of a doorway and greets her, saying, "You wanted to see me, right?" She tells him she's running late and asks him to walk with her. He agrees and tells her that he brought her a little present. It's a green Crusader onesie. He says it's for her little guy. He says, "It's never too young to start saving the world, right?" Is this a gesture to try to make up for the dolphin incident, you think?
It could be. I think in the past, what's kind of funny, I believe in the past, the way I feel that we, the unshown past is the fact that these people got away with doing whatever they wanted to. I think they're kind of starting to be seen. I think Madeline is starting to see these people as more than just money in her pocket and other things. She may be seeing them as a liability now.
Well, she's had a string of incidents with 3 members of the 7. Well, 4 if you count what happened to Translucent. I mean, that wasn't necessarily his fault that she knows, but yeah. Madeline does not respond to the gift, doesn't even take it from him. She tells him that she is going to need him to make a public apology and that he's going to take a sabbatical from the 7. He looks upset and says, "What?" He's incredulous.
Yeah, he is.
She goes on to tell him that he will be stationed in Sandusky, Ohio. This perks him up real quick. He begins to defend himself. He says, all right, look, I know my brain wasn't in the right place, but my heart was. And it's just that damn ocean land. They wouldn't let me. She cuts him off and says, "This is not about the dead dolphin. This is about Starlight." She begins walking again, making him follow her. He says rather uncomfortably, "Starlight? What are you?" He uncomfortably chuckles. "What about Starlight?" And Madeline tells him, "Everyone seems to want to know who she was referencing in that speech, and it is not going away. It's only a matter of time before she, or let's be honest, some of the other women speak up. So we need to get ahead of it." He says, "Okay, there may have been a misunderstanding. I know that. But can't you just, handle it like you do?" She tells him, "This is the way we are handling things now." She stands and looks for him for a while before nodding and walking off. The camera turns to the Deep as he stands there thinking about it. Behind him, there is a poster of him picking up trash on the beach. It says, "Here to help." And below it, "Every day, our heroes are out in the field, helping in ways big and small. It's our job to help them get there." It's from Vought, obviously. Yeah.
Right.
The implication of this conversation is there have been multiple other incidents in the past that Madeline knew about and helped cover up.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm assuming because of the publicity here, she can't sweep this under the rug.
Right. There have been a number of real life incidents with this happening over the last couple of years. The 2 that come to mind immediately are Blizzard Entertainment and Riot Entertainment, both video game companies. They've had some bad examples of the company covering up really bad stuff.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure there's a lot more than just those 2. Those are just companies that I had heard because I follow developments in the games and stuff like that.
All right.
The camera cuts to the Deep recording his apology. He says, "I'm in full support of women and their ongoing bravery in speaking out." He's having a bit of trouble and asks to start over. He begins reciting the lines that are written for him again. He's trying to memorize them. He messes up again, saying, "I'm sorry." He cuts again. He says, "Starlight, I hope you can forgive me." The director steps in. It's a woman director. She's asking him to try harder to sell it. Again, he's reciting his lines before the take. We transition to the final cut on the Vought News Network. He says, "I realize that my behavior has caused Starlight a great deal of pain, and I sincerely apologize for this. Though at the time, I believe that our encounter was consensual, I now realize that I misread the moment."
What a non-apology.
Yeah, it's...
A non-apology?
Yeah, and the fact that it's not to her face, it's just a public statement. Yeah. I mean, granted, in these situations, I don't know if you're supposed to be in near contact with...
You probably shouldn't admit it, I guess.
I should note they added music to the apology video.
Yeah.
The channel on the TV changes to a promo tour for Black Noir Insurrection. Seth Rogen co-stars, and they're on their kind of junket tour.
Right.
Seth Rogen's talking. He says it's his first movie in the Vought Cinematic Universe, or the VCU. The channel changes again into an intro for an older show from the 90s for The Mesmerizer, starring Mesmer. His power is to read people's hearts and minds. He is a kid that works with the police to get the bad guys. His tagline, there are no secrets from me. The camera zooms out, and we have been taken to an autograph signing at some type of Comic-Con event. Mesmer is signing autographs. He is played by Haley Joel Osment.
Haley Joel.
That's the kid from The Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
It looks so different now.
That's the best. I guess that's really one of the best M. Night Shyamalan movies. Unbreakable. I like Unbreakable.
The Village, to me,
The Village is good.
I love that movie. It's not a perfect movie, but I'm a sap for kind of the love story of it. And then I particularly like the blind girl kind of being the main hero and kind of like her hero's journey in it. It's just, I love that movie. I saw it in the theater when it came out.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I watched it again recently with my my oldest son, and he really liked it too. Yeah, but not taken away from Sixth Sense. I get a little creeped out some parts.
With Sixth Sense, Sixth Sense is such a great movie. The only problem I ever have with Sixth Sense, I'm a fan of rewatching a lot of movies. Most movies I watch can be rewatched, and with that movie that has such a distinct spoiler ending, I'm usually very spoiler proof on movies. You can tell me everything about a movie, but that is one of those movies that is a definitive spoiler if you know the ending of that movie.
Right.
But that's one of the few movies I've ever seen where it's like, that's only about 3 or 4 movies in total that I know that it's like an ending. It's a great movie, but I can't really rewatch it much because I know the ending. Usually that doesn't bother me, but in this one it kind of does.
That's a good point because I've really not rewatched that movie that often. I think I've maybe seen it only 2 times.
Yeah, I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
It's hard to rewatch because when you know what you know, it kind of hurts it.
Right.
Knowing it.
But I've watched Unbreakable quite a bit more. Really good movie.
I love Unbreakable.
Like that.
Big fan of that.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched the last one in the trilogy. I've watched that and Split. I haven't
watched Split or the other one.
Split's fun. I like Split. I'm a big McAvoy fan.
I heard it was good. Yeah.
Huge McAvoy fan.
Lady in the Water I saw one time. That I think is when his movies kind of started. Well, I mean, I guess I haven't seen his later ones after that, really.
Yeah. It was The Happening that did it for me. I saw that with some friend of mine at the theater, and all I ever took away from that movie was that the planet hates the French and Yankees. Other than that's the only people that get killed in that movie. So the Earth is trying to kill them.
Signs.
Signs? No, Signs is good. Been a long time, but Signs is good.
Oh, man.
Have you watched Old yet?
No. That's the one on the beach?
Yes. I've been told that I need to watch it, so I'll give it a shot. I haven't watched any of his newer movies, so I need to check it out. But it's probably going to be entertaining.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Cool. All right. Back to this. Mesmer does not look thrilled to be at the autograph signing.
Nope.
His smiles to the crowd aren't exactly genuine. You don't see it in his eyes. It's kind of a mouth-only smile, right? The camera goes around the room. Billy Zane, Shockwave, and Tara Reid are all there.
Nice. I love how the Shockwave's there. Is he that washed up already? He's down on the Billy Zane level?
Well, it's an interesting mix of soups and actors here.
True. Now, I love Billy Zane. He's not great, but we talked about him last an episode or 2 back, and I loved it. I love him.
Billy Zane is taking a picture with 2 fans, a man and a woman. The man gets a little too familiar with Billy Zane. He really hugs up on him, and the look on Billy's face is great. He's like kind of just cringing a bit, and it's funny. Sometimes fans really go overboard.
It's really funny, dude. Oh, I can't imagine.
Yep.
I can only imagine.
MM is walking up to the Mesmer booth. Instead of saying, "Say cheese," the photographer is saying, "There are no secrets from me," and then the people are expected to say it before the picture is taken. It's kind
of right. It's terrible. I love it. It's terrible.
The man Mesmer is taking a picture with has him guess what number he's thinking of. Of course, Mesmer gets it right. The guy says, "Amazing." It's got to be hard when you're in a situation like this as a celebrity, these people coming up to you, and it's the same thing over and over and over. It's just they want to get that thing out of you. It's like,
yeah, the one that I hear that's the word, and a lot of people have been hearing him. They were giving Harrison Ford a hard time recently, I think during some interviews with the Force Awakens stuff, being back in the
Mhm.
Han Solo role. And what so many people do forget is that how many millions of questions has he been asked about Han Solo? And he's probably thinking, am I never going to not be Han Solo? It's like, dude, I love Han Solo, but I know he's got to be tired of that. And I know people get tired of that stuff big time. But don't be an actor.
Mm.
If you don't want to be asked a question a million times either, it's kind of what I feel like. I don't have a lot of sympathy, but there is a little bit.
Is he more Han Solo to you or Indiana Jones?
He's more Rick. He's more Deckard from Blade Runner to me.
Interesting.
That Blade Runner and The Thing from 1982, both same year, I consider those both my favorite movie. And Harrison Ford is Rick Deckard to me.
I love Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. That's one of my favorite movies.
I like Last Crusade almost more than I like. I'm sorry, I like the original Indiana Jones, but I have only watched it twice. I can't rewatch that movie very much. But Last Crusade, I like anything Holy Grail related, dude. I don't know why. I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, for a long time I would say that was my favorite movie of all time. But Christopher Nolan, his movies are so good, and
yeah, they are.
Interstellar hits me pretty hard because it's the father-daughter relationship in that that really gets me. I think. Because I have a daughter as well, so
yeah. Well, for me with Nolan, it was Memento because my late wife, the first movie we ever saw on a date was Memento.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that in the theater, and I knew that this Christopher Nolan guy was real special. And we went to see all of his movies up until
Dunkirk.
No, I saw Dark Knight Rises. I think it was that was the last one of his I saw in the theater. But I may have seen Inception in the theater. I'm not sure which came first, though. But there's a bunch of his I've been wanting to see. I've been wanting to watch Dunkirk. I've been told is that a good movie?
I haven't seen it yet. I think that's the one movie he's done that I haven't seen.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I can think of is that one.
Yeah.
I guess we are slacking, dude.
After the man asks Mesmer what number he's thinking of, a groupie walks up. And she's acting kind of shy. And she asks him what she's thinking of and holds out her hand. He takes it and he kind of gets a smile on his face. And he says, I'm thinking the same thing. And he writes his number down on the cover of her book. And she's like, all right.
All right. She's going to hook up with the Mesmer later.
She's taller than him also, which is interesting.
Yeah, she is.
Yep.
Well, Haley Joel is not a tall fellow.
Yeah.
He's still a little fellow.
Yeah.
As an adult.
Walks up, greeting Mesmer as Mr. Mesmer. Mesmer tells him it's just Mesmer, no Mr. necessary. tells him he's a big fan and asks if Mesmer was on teenage kicks with A-Train. Mesmer confirms that he was. says A-Train's really blown up, hasn't he? Mesmer said A-Train's great. He's really happy for him. There's a moment where the conversation stalls, so Mesmer starts making a little small talk and asks if he's a fan of the show, pointing at the poster of the Mesmerizer. says, no, never seen it. He asks, you know what I'm a fan of? Your insider trading. The way you brushed your hand up against that Wall Street guy, brother, that right there, now that was ruthless. I mean, Vought dropped you like a hot potato afterwards, which I think is some bullshit, but with the SEC coming, Mesmer very aggressively says, who the are you? holds out his hand and asks Mesmer if he would like to take a peek and see. Mesmer clasps his hands with closes his eyes for a moment, then looks up at and asks, how do you know about Cleo? puts his arm around Mesmer, faces the photographer, and says, there are no secrets from me. Oh, that's so great, dude.
I love it, dude.
Yeah. Masterful work from manipulated out of him right there.
Dude, I think Mother's Milk is possibly the greatest fictional handler of all time. Dude, he's great.
I mean, I really like his character. I don't know. What other handlers do we know, though?
I know of the Wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Well, I mean, the Wolf. I mean, as much as I love
I mean, the Wolf.
The Wolf, though, that guy,
the Wolf,
was on another level,
dude. Yes, he is another level, but that's about the only handler I can really think of offhandedly, isn't it? Is that a handler or a cleaner? Is it both?
We're gonna need to come back on this one.
Okay.
Make a note.
Put a
We're
pin
gonna
in
we're
that.
gonna we're gonna come back on it. Maybe 5 episodes
Okay.
from now, we'll remember to come back on
Mother's milk versus the wolf.
it. Is it even the same job title? We'll see. Yeah.
Right. Good question.
Yep. We fast forward to MM and Mesmer walking through a park. MM is telling Mesmer that he works for child services, which oddly enough is the truth.
That is the truth of his gig when you think about it, isn't
It
it?
is. Yeah.
It is. That's cool.
MM says his colleague Tina owes him a favor. She and MM both believe in second chances. Mesmer tells MM to cut the he lost custody 3 years ago. Nobody believes in second chances for ups like him. They come up to a picnic table. There's a teenage girl sitting on the table. She is accompanied by Tina. Mesmer takes a moment to gather himself. MM tells him Cleo is waiting for him. Mesmer greets Cleo. She looks at him and doesn't respond. He asks if she remembers her old man. She says, "Hi, Charles." I guess they don't have a very good relationship, greeting him by his first name.
Right.
Mesmer sits down on the table next to her. He begins to apologize and tells her he's going to try to be in her life a little more. He asks if that would be okay. Cleo says, "I guess." Tina calls to Cleo, telling her they need to get back. Mesmer stands up and gives Cleo a hug. He gets really emotional, but she has no reaction, not even hugging him back.
Right.
Mesmer says, "I just want to know that you don't hate me." Cleo says, "I don't really know you." She tries to leave, and he calls her back. He has a gift for her. It's a DVD set of The Mesmerizer. He says it's so she'll know him a little better. Cleo tells him she doesn't have a DVD player and says goodbye.
Well,
Mesmer is wiping tears from his eyes. He asks MM if he can see her every month. MM tells him for 1 hour, and it'll be supervised. He asks if Mesmer is clean. Mesmer says, "I can be." See how that goes.
right.
Yep. MM says, "Good." Mesmer asks, "Who do you want me to read?" Huey and Butcher are sitting on a bench in the park. Huey asks what they are doing there. Butcher smiles. He's quiet for a moment, then says, "My wife, Becca, used to hum the Spice Girls. Drove me around that bend, all day long, walking around the house, humming. She was happy. Now, know why she was happy with me, but she was happy."
Quick question. When in that episode previously where we had the flashback where he was with her and they were talking about the reunion, were they talking about a Spice Girls reunion show? Is that what she's probably talking about?
I did not pick up on that. I'm trying to think when Spice Girls were popular. It was early 2000s,
I don't know enough about them.
late 90s.
Okay.
So I guess it's possible. I didn't hear the name of the band.
No, I don't think the band was mentioned. I just,
Yeah.
but I
Makes
just I
sense.
just thought about it when I saw her talking how much he's talking about how much she loves the Spice Girls,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming that's why he talks about the Spice Girls because how
Mhm.
much he hated them, and that's something to hold on to Becca, I guess, a little bit with talk about the Spice Girls when he's giving that amazing motivational speech
Mhm.
about the Spice Girls. But I was just kind of curious if maybe that was what they were arguing about. He goes, "I'll be glad to send you. I'm not going to that show."
Yeah, it's a strong possibility.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
Mhm. Butcher stops. He pauses. You can see the tears beginning to well up in his eyes. Finally, he says, "Homelander RAP'd her." Huey says, "Jesus, I'm sorry." Butcher takes a while, then says, "Not long after that, she came and sat right here. I know this because she got tagged in that security camera right there." He points to the camera that took the video of Becca. We saw him watching it a couple of episodes ago.
Yes.
He says, "She sat here for 3 hours, didn't move a muscle. Then she just got up and walked away. That was 8 years ago, and nobody's seen her since. Either Homelander killed her or she killed herself. Same difference. You see, I know what it's like to lose someone. You and me were in this together, for Robin and Becca. That is why you can't allow yourself to be distracted by another bird, especially not a soup. Just remember who your friends and who your enemies are." We have finally found out what all of this is about for Butcher. We knew it had something to do with Becca,
Yeah.
but now we realize how bad the situation is.
Yeah, that's a really bad situation.
Again, where's the line? What allows you to sell your soul?
Some people can forgive and some people can't.
Yeah.
I've known people in my life related by marriage that they went to their graves being bitter people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just bitter. And some people, some people, we always joke about, glass half full, glass half empty. Which kind of person are you? I say there's a third type of person, which is more like what glass
Oh man.
kind of group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so you're going to have people that are very much like that. What glass? I mean, it's all bad. It's just all terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing ever any good. They can't forgive because they don't even know how to. I don't know because they don't even know what that means to do. So that may be why they can't do it. I don't know. I'm real curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had some bad things happen personally, really horrible stuff happen with stuff with my wife's family and things like that. That ice didn't let color me. I did for a while, but once I got some distance, I was able to forgive and move on, and I've been a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, but you have to. But it does take. People have to make that conscious decision to let things go, and if you can't do it, you won't do it.
Right.
I think that's all I've done.
I'll have to keep thinking about that.
That's a really good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of life's questions. It's one of those ones you really got to think long and hard about it. And it probably moves over time.
And I'm sure you're correct about that. Because, I think about things that when I was younger that would have upset me when I'm younger. As I've gotten older, I'm like, when I look back, I'm like, I don't know why I would have let something like that in the past upset me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, but you and I at least were able to reflect. And I mean, I think you have kids. I think kids help you to reflect a lot more than whether you want to or not. You're going to be reflecting.
Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. Homelander is in an old barn. He has a baseball in his hand. He throws it, and it is launched out of sight. That thing just rockets off.
Mm-hmm.
Madeline shows up saying, that is going to kill someone when it lands in Boston. She doesn't even express any concern about.
No, I wanted to do the old Bugs Bunny thing, don't you? Don't you want it to come around the earth and to catch it?
Yeah, man, that'd be funny.
But yeah, no concern from her whatsoever on someone being killed by Homelander throwing a ball a couple states away.
Yeah. Homelander is having a pout. He looks upset. Madeline says, look, I heard what happened. I am so sorry. He asks her what kind of place she grew up in. She says she moved around a lot, so it was a bunch of condos. He says, so what if I took you to a house you'd never seen before, full of photos of parents you never met, toys you never played with, Hardy Boy books that you never read, and then I asked you how much all of that fake bullshit meant to you? How would that make you feel? She says, I wouldn't like that. She steps up to him, standing very close beside him, and says, I'm really sorry about the blanket. It should never have been there. And Randy Setdeck has already been terminated. But right now, we need to finish that tour and to show how down to earth and ready to serve you are. And I need you to tell the mother story. Please. And she puts her hand on his crotch and says, please do it for me. Manipulation.
Yes, very, very, man. And this whole scene, she puts on that concern. You honestly almost feel like she's almost concerned until that, and you're like, do it for me, please.
Mm-hmm. The camera cuts to Homelander doing the mother story. His entire demeanor has changed. His charming switch is now turned on. The story goes, this is the mother story. It was actually my mom who dragged me along to my first Little League practice. And pretty soon after that, I just loved the game more than anything else in the world. So every year, she would bake me a birthday cake in the shape of a baseball diamond. And, I got to tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details, just like her. He smiles. The director says, cut. Homelander's facial expression changes immediately. He says, so we're done? The director tells him, yes. It's amazing, the switch.
He is really something else.
Mm-hmm.
Does he put tears on? Doesn't he put tears on during some point of this production? Is it when he's freaking out about the blanket before he freaks out about does he put the tear in the eye then? Or is it in the mother story? Is he doing the tear it up?
I'm trying to remember. I think
he may not, but I think
no. I think you're right. I'm trying to remember I think it might have been this one. when
Okay.
when he
Talking about
pauses.
her being perfect, just like
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
Just
I think
like
that's
her.
when it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to do that, dude. I don't know how he does that, but I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Mesmer, Frenchie, and the Japanese soup girl are walking up to Mesmer's house. Once they're inside, Mesmer asks if she can't talk or won't talk. Says that's what Mesmer is going to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Mesmer asks if there's anything in particular they want to know. tells him everything there is to know. Mesmer is kind of like, that narrows it down a little bit.
Right.
Frenchie asks her to sit down on the couch. Mesmer sits on the coffee table and puts his hand out. Frenchie tells him to be gentle. She looks at Frenchie, a bit unsure. Frenchie smiles at her, trying to reassure her a little bit. Mesmer takes a deep breath and goes in. She is reliving the most traumatic events that have happened to her. The fight in the basement where she was held captive, the fight with A-Train, the fight with Black Noir. She goes feral and snaps Mesmer's wrist badly. Like it's a hard snap.
It hurts to watch that, dude. Doesn't his arm go backwards? Doesn't she just bend it in half? Basically,
I think she bends it down, right, and it just snaps it.
It hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine this happening to me and thinking that I would be in a fetal position on the floor after this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I would be in tears.
Yep.
That's rough.
And I could have told you something like this was going to happen, man. It's like,
yeah, right.
So she's freaking out, lurching around the room. Frenchie's trying to calm her down. Tells everyone to relax. Then he tells Mesmer to go walk it off.
Walk it off, dude. Yeah, your hand's on backwards, but walk it off, dude.
Mesmer's yelling. He's like, walk it off. She broke my wrist. Oh, man.
And I think he's in better shape than I would be after having my wrist in that way. I think I'd be in fetal position on the ground in tears, waiting for the ambulance.
Yeah.
Not be walking around going, walk it off.
Yeah. Frenchie's telling them that she didn't intend any harm. Mesmer says they could have fooled him. He tries to kick them out so he can go to the hospital. Tells him to sit down. Mesmer says, you, the session's over. Yells at him to sit down and tells him, listen, I was a field medic. Don't look at her, look at me. I can patch you up better than any of those oxy junkies in the ER, or I can break your other wrist. You decide.
Wow.
Quite the bedside manner.
Right?
Mesmer nods in agreement. He's in a lot of pain. asks if Mesmer has bandages or a splint. Mesmer tells him he doesn't have a damn splint. Gets a call. It's Butcher. Tells Mesmer to be quiet. And I love that the ringtone for Butcher is Flight of the Valkyries.
Oh, yeah, dude. I have like Apocalypse Now flashbacks. So I have Vietnam War flashbacks via movies. But I have but it always reminds me of Apocalypse Now, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Great ringtone.
Answers the call. Butcher asks where they are. tells him Shake Shack. And I've been wanting to try Shake Shack for a long time. Never got around to it. They have a couple in Houston.
I've never heard of them. I think it's great.
Yeah. Butcher says, really? Magic that place. What'd you get? Says, Shack burger, cheese fries, cookie dough concrete. Butcher tells him it sounds good. He asks, does it taste like lies? I have your phone linked to my Find Your Shithead Friends app.
That's amazing, dude.
No, where the are you?
Oh.
Just looks up and closes his eyes. He knows he messed up. It's great, man.
It's amazing, dude. You know what's funny is that there's a place here that I had never heard of, but they might have had them in Dallas called Culver's, which has it's kind of like a Brahms. They got ice cream and burgers. But the problem is their ice cream is called concrete mixers. But the problem is they make their ice cream, it's custard.
Yeah, you don't like it?
You can't tell it. I loved it, but it hated me coming the other way. Oh my
Are you
Lord.
lactose intolerant or something?
You know, I'm not really. I can go and have an ice cream and other things, but it's because custard has a lot of eggs in it, and too much eggs, I think, is my problem.
Okay.
I like it, but I think it's just too rich.
Okay.
It's kind of like I love eggnog when it comes Christmas season, but I'll like buy half a gallon and drink it over 2 weeks.
Okay.
Like going over, take a sip. I can't drink a lot of it at once, but it was fantastic, but it killed me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's a place around here called Connie's Custard. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have
Well, like I said,
concretes there as well. Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was sold as ice cream because I thought it was in this town, it was the best malt I'd ever had.
Mhm.
And it just hated me so
Oh
bad.
man.
Woo,
Yeah.
it was
Those
brutal.
food sensitivities are unfortunate.
They ain't no joke sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when it's good stuff like ice cream or
Mhm.
custard like that.
Yep. The Maeve promo is being shot. There is an inspiring orchestral score. Her hair is blowing in the wind in slow motion.
Dude, that is so 80s. That is so 80s MTV hairband.
Mm,
The hair in motion. I love it.
hmm It's raining, but she's not wet. Courtney is in the background saying, "Yes, this is a superhero. This is good." Okay. Maeve asks if she just keeps posing, and Courtney says to continue. Maeve is talking in a different scene. People are asking me what it's like to live with my coworkers, and the truth is, we're all great friends. Behind the scenes, just as much as we are to the. She stops talking when she notices Elena walking up.
Right.
Maeve greets her and tells the camera crew, "This is my friend," and kind of pats Elena on the shoulder. Elena says, "Yeah, that's what we are. We're friends." She asks Maeve to have them stop filming. Maeve and Elena go some distance away so they can talk. Maeve says she needs 5 minutes. Courtney tells them to continue filming. A sound guy is hiding behind a pillar trying to get audio with his boom mic, and Maeve and Elena can't see him. They don't know that they're still filming and recording. And we're getting snippets of the conversation. Maeve is telling Elena she is filming a reality show. Elena thinks it's invasive. Isn't that kind of the definition of a reality show? It's like the most invasive show.
If there was such a thing as a reality show,
Mm-hmm.
but I think all of our quote unquote reality shows are usually really not.
Mm,
But if we had the real ones, yeah, I would think that'd be nice.
okay.
I like the Survivor stuff. Do you like the Survivor Man kind of things?
Wait, Survivor Man or Survivor?
Survivor Man.
Yeah,
I never watched Survivor, but Survivor Man. But I like those kind of Survivor shows. But the other ones,
that and Alone is pretty cool.
oh, I hadn't seen that one.
Alone, they take like I want to say it's maybe 8 people, and they put them in these really remote locations. Think northern Canada around a lake.
Was it the
Or
people that did the Naked and Alone stuff? Was it like
no, no, no,
groups?
no. These people
Okay.
they go in with they can choose a number of items, and the goal is to stay out longer than anybody else. That's the competition.
Oh, okay.
But they're not in communication with each other. They are alone, and they have to
Oh,
live off
wow.
the land, and they get to choose some of like the gear that they take with them. It's pretty good. I recommend it. If you like the Survivor Man type stuff, it's similar to
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
dig that kind of stuff. I always enjoyed those. I like the Bear Grylls stuff too. That dude was pretty cool.
Sensationalist.
He is a
Yeah.
sensationalist, but hey.
He has a show on Netflix now for the kids. It's kind of a choose your own adventure. And
Oh,
if they make a bad choice, they like slide off a cliff or something, by accident.
yeah.
you know.
I saw he has another group show on Amazon.
Mm,
But there was one that I used to like that was called Alaska Ultimate Survival, and that was more of a race.
okay.
And you had these 4 teams of 3, I think, competing, and you had this group of like the Alaskan mountain men versus like the Navy SEALs versus some other homesteaders, like the Alaskan homesteaders, and they're doing like sled race and mountain climb and all this other crazy stuff up there in Alaska, and that was really cool because it's real pretty, and that felt more realistic than a lot of the other Survivor shows because it was a race.
Mm-hmm.
But that's hard to find. I wish I could find that show. It was really very beautifully done and very entertaining people and pretty clean too. You could show it to your family and have no worries.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Kind of show.
Yeah.
It might be kind of intense in points, but I mean, I think that's the only thing you have to worry about with children a lot of times is some intensity in some of the stuff. Like I would recommend for families.
Mm-hmm. Maeve asks what Elena is doing there, saying she would never turn up to Elena's work. Elena tells her she was worried about her. Maeve says that she had a bad night. Elena says, "This Teflon, it might work on everybody else, but will not work with me." Maeve asks her to keep her voice down. Elena says she just wants to know what's going on. And Maeve says, "Did you ever think that maybe I was just looking for a hookup? I know that you think you know me." And Elena tells her that she used to. Maeve says, "Yeah, used to. I've changed." And Elena says, "Yeah, I still know you. Afraid to be seen with me. afraid to ask for help, just afraid. And then she walks off. Maeve is standing there. She appears heavily impacted by that last statement.
Yeah.
Maeve notices Courtney is still filming and starts cussing at her. Courtney tells her they cut a while ago. They were taking B-roll footage of the building. Maeve storms off, and Courtney tells the cameraman that now they can stop filming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like I said, these people are almost always in this show portrayed in such unflattering light. But, it would be hard to be in that position if, a superhero who's a commercial superhero, and so always being surrounded by people, you can't really reveal who you are without being afraid of having it exposed. Could be impacting your numbers if you're dating someone that somehow the demographics don't like. It's like, there's all kinds of things to consider in that kind of weirdness.
Mm-hmm. The choice is be true to yourself or be true to this image of yourself.
That's true.
Right.
We'd like to see Maeve be true to herself and not the image of herself, I guess.
I mean,
Maeve is growing a little bit.
I always would like to see people be the best versions of themselves, right?
Agreed.
And
agreed.
I understand the challenge that she's facing, but she is also kind of put herself there, right?
She has.
Yeah.
Yes, she has.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with this young lady, I believe, or at least that's the feeling I get so far from what little we've seen in their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Frenchie is trying to calm the Japanese soup girl down. She is hiding under a table. Butcher arrives with Huey. Butcher greets Mesmer, telling him he's a big fan, and says he'll be with him in a minute. Butcher turns to MM and tells him, well, now we got to kill him. It's not very quietly either,
Right?
MM tells him they don't have to kill him. They made a deal with him. He helps them. He gets to see his kid. He's just a dad with a kid. Butcher corrects him. He's just a soup with a kid.
Wow.
He asks what the MM was thinking coming here. He knows better than that. MM says sometimes you get further with people by treating them like people. Butcher gives Mesmer a compliment on his decor. 80s serial killer. Love it.
That's my decor.
Yeah. He then tells everyone, let's get cracking. And I would like to point out that the splint that they have chosen is a wooden mixing spoon. And they have also used duct tape as the adhesive of choice.
Nice.
For
always
securing the splint.
Duct tape, baby. You can't lose.
Yeah. This time the girl holds Frenchie's hand and then grabs Mesmer's hand in the other.
I like that she grabs Frenchie's hand.
For comfort, yeah. And Frenchie's being brave here.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's not afraid of her though. He knows who she is. He thinks he does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an involuntary reaction though that she had last time, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think she intentionally hurt that fellow.
No.
It was just
it was like a
reaction to overwhelming.
She was reliving the trauma, and then she freaked out.
Can you imagine the weird thing I've always been kind of curious about in a mind reading type of superhero that's never explored? What about the person who's having it done? I mean, is it like having your thoughts poured out? All of a sudden it's like PTSD where you're experiencing it. I'm kind of curious. Do you experience it from a third person point of view? You're kind of, out there looking at it past value, or none of the above?
Okay. So are you asking from the perspective of the person that is being read or the reader?
Being read. Yeah. The person being read.
Okay. In this case, I think she's reliving it.
Yeah. That's kind of how it seems to be. Yeah. So I think it was very closer to, almost akin to PTSD in a way.
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Mesmer relays what he's seeing. She is part of an army in the jungle attacking people. There's a flag with 2 snakes crossed on it. There are red rays behind them. It's the flag for the Shining Light Liberation Army. Apparently, this faction is known to Butcher and MM, and they're terrorists.
Is this a real group, or is this just something made up?
I didn't look it up. I don't think it's real.
Okay.
MM tells Frenchie he's dating a terrorist. Frenchie turns to her and asks if this is true. She just looks down, doesn't give any response, verbal or otherwise. We go back to Homelander at his childhood home. He is walking around on the front porch as the film and prop crew are packing up to leave. He comes across a box filled with props. There is a Ziploc bag, and it's filled with Homelander's blanket, the one that set him off. Mm-hmm. This triggers a memory from him from when he was a baby. He's sitting in a room with no furniture. There's nothing in the room but a target on the wall and the blanket. The target's kind of like the ones you have at a shooting range, and you can see
Yes.
some marks on the wall. Looks like laser vision is kind of hit some of it.
You're right.
The room's completely white, not a place you would want to spend an extended period of time. It's like a lab environment, something you would see in an experiment. Now we can see not only why he was so upset about seeing the blanket while they were filming, but also his behaviors towards Madeline. She is somehow a mother-ish figure to him.
Yes.
You picked up on this and mentioned it in the past. And there's the Freudian aspect to that relationship as well.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
But he has no parents. He was a lab baby.
Because he is a lab baby, and we do get deeper into that into this season, as a matter of fact. But yeah, that explains so much of his inability to be able to be empathic, because he is a lab rat.
Right. Back to Butcher and company. The girl is drawing the same symbol she's been drawing. Frenchie is saying there must be more to all this. She can't be a terrorist. Butcher tells him to just keep her under control. is trying to work out what they're doing with her. His theory is they brought in a top-shelf terrorist recruit and pumped her full of Compound V. Butcher finishes the thought that when she's good and ready, they cut her loose to wreak havoc. Frenchie doesn't think she would do it. Huey wants to know why Vought would give Compound V to terrorists. Tells him the only thing more dangerous than a terrorist is a soup terrorist, and the only way to fight it, and again Butcher finishes, is with Sergeant Homelander. Gotta let them in the army now. Those are creating supervillains, and maybe there's more of them. God knows how many. Huey is having trouble breathing. He says, holy says, okay, this is a cluster even for us.
Yeah, it is.
Frenchie is still trying to defend the girl, saying that's what they want her to be, but that's not who she is. That's not what she wants. Butcher says, and you know this because she bends your ear off? Frenchie said she saved his life. She's not bad. She just wants to go home. He's getting very animated.
And she did go out of her way to say that, boy. So I understand, Frenchie's had some payback on his investment of care for her.
Yep, he
already.
Has. Butcher again says, she's a soup, just like the rest. How many times do I have to say it, eh? I mean, he said it at least 5-6 times this episode alone, right?
Yeah, always.
Frenchie goes to the girl and begs her to tell them who she is, to tell them what he sees. She looks at him for a moment, then walks up to Butcher, gives him a real mean look, then goes and sits in front of Mesmer, grabbing his hand. We see she's a young girl. It's the middle of the night. She's been drawing palm fronds in front of the moon. She would see them looking out the window at night. The soldiers raided their house, killing her parents and taking her and her brother. They forced them to be soldiers. She just wants to go back and get her brother out of there. Her name's Kamiko. Finally, I have a name. I can stop calling her Japanese soup girl. I can call her Kamiko. Thank you.
Kamiko. Welcome to the boys, Kamiko.
Frenchie is happy he knows her name now. Butcher tells them to take her back to the safe house. He's going to see Raynor since they have more than enough to get the feds on board now. Before he leaves, he turns to Mesmer and says, you tell anyone what you saw or heard here today, and I'll cut your hands off and shove them so far up your fingers will give us a little wave out your throat. Yeah? Mesmer reaches out to shake his hand. Butcher obviously doesn't take it, saying, off, wanker, and leaves. That's got to be kind of tough for Mesmer. No one wants to shake his hand except for those super fans,
Yeah. Oh, that would be rough. Well, especially because of being in trouble, apparently, for insider trading and touching someone's hand and getting him in trouble. Some of that is definitely self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And I think someone with that power, in a weird way, I'm kind of like, we've talked about Erickson, our favorite writer, Steven Erickson, and his love of illusionist class and D&D. And in certain aspects, if you got a guy that's a powerful guy, I could see how that could be very powerful and can make, look at them. Look, have you seen the new Spider-Man movies? Did you see the one with Mysterio?
No.
Oh, my word. Okay. Never mind that.
No. Yeah.
You're missing some really good films. Those are really good.
Yeah, the Sony ones are the only ones I haven't seen.
Yeah, they're really brilliant, dude. I love them
because they're not any of my streaming services. So,
well, I actually bought those from the streaming store. I haven't seen the third one yet. It's the one, and I haven't watched the new Doctor Strange, and I want to see it because Sam Raimi directed that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm kind of afraid though at the same time. So I'm starting to get a little
could be hit or
trepidation
miss
about some of the MCU. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Deep is filling up the gas on his Hummer H3.
I didn't realize it was an H3.
And I would like to point out,
was it Mr. I Got Tech Night to drive a hybrid?
My point exactly, right? What happened to carbon footprint?
Right?
You know, we're driving a SUV with a gas engine, Mr. Environment.
I love that he's still in his webbed gloves, filling up his
and even
car, dude. That's hilarious.
Where is his incognito?
Yeah, exactly. There is no incognito for this guy, apparently. He doesn't know the idea of it.
Yeah. The gas pump is playing his statement about Starlight on the little screen that you can watch while you're pumping. The title on the screen reads, The Deep. It wasn't on porpoise. Dude, I was cracking up when I saw that. It's hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it said it the first time when they were recording it, but this time definitely. Come on, man. Even the news network is making a joke about him.
Is this as bad as the Let's Go Brandon stuff?
Oh man, we're not going to get into that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem not getting into it, but I think it's kind of funny how that's become so synonymous with something else.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah. I mean that initial part where the news reporter tried to cover up what was actually being said. I mean, come on. Everybody that was listening could hear what was being chanted. You know? I mean, come on.
I know it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
A pickup truck drives by. A woman throws something out of her window at the Deep. It hits his rear driver's side window and shatters it. The pickup truck speeds off. The woman yells, "You fish." And the Deep responds, giving her a thumbs up and saying, "Keep speaking your truth."
I'm going to have to respond on two levels to this one. I'm so sorry, but the fish reference. Do you know where I'm going to go with this one? Do you know the South Park? Do you know the fish story? Don't you?
Yes, Kanye West.
Fish. Yes. So there. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking Kanye West and fish. Oh, but the speaking your truth. I'm sorry. I think there's truth and not truth, but I'll stop at that. You can refer to episode 5 for Billy's true feelings on truth.
Butcher is in Rayner's office. She has a Newton's Cradle desk toy, and he is commenting on it.
Thank you for telling me what that's always called. I never known it was called that, but I love those things.
I had to look up the name.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love those things.
Prior to today, it was the swingy ball clacky thing. So Butcher is saying, never got the point of these. To me, they always look like granddad's bollocks flopping in the wind. I don't know why he would have that visual.
I don't either. Yeah. I can honestly say I've never seen mine in the wind, so it's like, and I'm really thankful for that too.
Susan stops the balls from swinging and asks Butcher if he has the compound V or not. He pulls an envelope out of his jacket pocket and tells her he has the compound V, proof that Vought injected babies right across the country, and something even more diabolical. He loves that word, diabolical.
I love that word. I wish I could use it as well as he uses it.
Yeah.
It's diabolical. I love it. You don't get a chance to say it very often. I like I think we've talked about his use of cuss words. I've always enjoyed foreigners, and especially foreign people who speak English. Their cuss words versus our cuss words are usually so strange and so different. I always like English versus Australian versus American. You know, some of that slang and some of that weird stuff is so fun.
Yeah. I love it. Like Guy Ritchie movies, the way they talk.
Yes, absolutely.
She asks, worse than dosing babies? He says, let's just say with these there ain't no rock bottom.
Yeah, right.
Susan reaches for the envelope and says, let's get it to the lab. Butcher pins the envelope in place with his hand and tells her not so fast. He pulls a piece of paper out of his pocket and says, first things first, eh? Susan recognizes it as a list of his demands and quips, "How in character." She reads off the list. An exorbitant salary, same for all your team. Office space in the Flatiron building, no less. I had to look this up. It's the famous triangular building they use in a lot of movies. Most recently,
Yes.
I remember it being used as the Continental Hotel in John Wick. And
Okay.
in the comics, it's actually the headquarters for the boys.
It is.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, she gives them a really bad, like they get a room there. It may be a floor for all I know, but it is like really run down and decrepit in that building. So it needed a bunch of work. So she kind of held out on him on that one because he wasn't specific.
Mm-hmm. So it's like the abandoned mail room or something. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's really bad, but it is in the Flatiron building. So.
He wasn't specific enough. He asked for a security clearance, indemnity clause, legal protection, and finally, a formal guarantee that Homelander will be prosecuted under the full extent of the law. He asks if any of that will be a problem. She says no, she'll pass it up the chain, and while they hash it out, her and Butcher will go forward on good faith. Again, she reaches for the envelope, and again, he stops her from taking it. Butcher laughs and says, "I'm fresh out of good faith. Now, you and I both know you can rubber stamp all of that. So what's it going to be, Deputy Director?" She says, "I can give you everything you want on this list." He says, except Homelander, she says. Butcher says, "You know what he's done." And he looks down. She actually gets up from her chair and walks around the desk. She's sitting right next to him on the front side of her desk. She says, "I sympathize. I really do. But it's suicide." He says, "Yeah, well, that's a small price to pay, isn't it?" She says, "Not for you, for thousands of people if you push him too hard." Butcher accuses her of being scared. She admits she's terrified, and Butcher should be as well.
And he should be too.
Yeah. He picks up the envelope, activates the Newton's cradle again, and walks out. Susan calls to him a couple of times, and he still leaves. Then she sits down in her chair and knocks over the Newton's cradle in frustration. He had a pretty sweet deal there, but he gave it all up over that one condition.
One condition.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is his core driving thing, right?
It is his core driving thing, but as we cover this in a little bit, when he tells the friends that basically they're not going for it, he's lying to them.
Yep.
He didn't go for it.
Yep.
So, and it's like, he could at least, if I was in his position, I would take the deal and work it, and I'd work Homelander on the side. But where else are you going to get this money and this funding?
Yeah. Take
the money and, ask for forgiveness and permission later on.
Yeah, it's definitely a stubborn thing.
Yeah. It's starting to be a flaw.
Yes.
If he's not careful.
Starlight is walking the halls of the Vought Tower. She gets a text message telling her they don't need her for the reality shoot. They already have everything they need. They sent her a link to the video. The voiceover is saying, "This small town, girl next door wanted to change the world." We hear Starlight's voice saying, "Since when did hopeful and naive become the same thing?" The narrator says, "But the world had other plans." We see the Deep and Starlight on stage when she was first introduced as a member of the Seven. Then there's a scene where we're looking at the outside of a window with the shade pulled down, and we see the silhouette of two people, a man and a woman, and the woman slapping the man. They then play the apology by the Deep. We see Starlight in front of a blue screen, and there's a caption saying VFX missing in the bottom right. The narrator says, "Battered and beaten, a phoenix rose from the ashes with a message so loud, so raw, it couldn't come forth as anything less than a roar." It shows Starlight activating her powers and blinding the camera, and then Katy Perry's Roar is playing in the background. So cheesy.
It is. I had to look up that song, but thank God for Amazon's X-ray feature, because it told me what the song was. I'm like, oh, that's Katy Perry. I've heard of her. Yeah.
The narrator continues, "Witness her power, hear her truth." That's your favorite right there.
Right. That's my favorite.
Starlight says, "And I'm done taking any more." And she's doing some fake punches toward the camera. The narrator finishes, Watch her stand up and fight back for all of us. Citizen Starlight coming this fall from Vought. We see Maeve is standing over Starlight's shoulder in the hallway. Maeve says, "The house always wins." Starlight begins to do an eye roll. Maeve says, "I'm sorry," then walks off. And Starlight's taken aback. I think she's surprised that Maeve apologized to her.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Kamiko and Frenchie are sitting on their couch watching Shark Week. Frenchie says he knows she wants to go back to her brother, but the people that...
Well, we at least know it's the same week because it's Shark Week.
Yeah. Good call there. Yep. Frenchie says he knows she wants to go back to her brother, but the people that did this to her may be doing it to others. He says they could use her help stopping them. It's her choice. If she gives him a nod, he'll take her to the airport right now. Kamiko looks at him for a moment, then takes his hand in hers and goes back to watching TV. And on a side note, on the TV, the narrator is talking about the mating habits of sharks, specifically about the habits of the female sharks when selecting a mate. Now, this is why I was asking you about the shark-like traits, because I knew this was coming, but I just wasn't sure if I was missing something else.
No, I just think more wild, more of a wild creature at this point. She's not domesticated yet.
Yeah.
He's working there.
Yep. MM is on the phone with Monique, telling her that if she watches that episode of Downton Abbey without him, he'll be one episode behind and they're not going to be able to binge watch together. He's asking her to hold off until he gets home.
Now, I'm going to have to confess something here. Only in this past year, but I have watched Downton Abbey.
Okay.
It's actually quite good if you like upstairs, downstairs kind of stuff. It's, servants, wealthy aristocracy in England. If you like that kind of stuff, it's great. My parents like very British stuff, so I grew up watching a lot of BBC stuff. So I watched a lot of it with them when I had first moved down to this park, because I stayed with them for about 6 weeks. So it's I had a good time watching it with them, because it kind of was cool to hang out with my elderly parents watching television. It's still cool, So
there's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, it was a good show.
There was a movie with Clive Owen that was a similar premise, where he was somebody's servant. Like it was basically like a bunch of, I think it became a murder mystery. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
I love Clive Owen.
Gosford Park.
Oh, I didn't know he was in Gosford Park.
He was one of the main characters.
Oh my word! Okay,
Clive Owen
I'll go back and watch it.
I
know that's very English, and I think you're right. I think it is some kind of murder or something. I need to watch that with my parents. They love English stuff. That probably
it had a lot of people in it. It had Helen Mirren in it, Ryan Phillippe, Kristen Scott Thomas, Maggie Smith.
Love Maggie Smith.
Yeah, a lot of people. But really good movie.
I like Kristen Scott Thomas as well. Very big fan of hers.
Yeah. She was good in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Did you ever see Keeping Mom?
No.
Her mother is Maggie Smith, and she's married to Rowan Atkinson, and Rowan Atkinson is a preacher. And her mother used to be had killed some people with an axe. It was like an axe murderess back in the 40s or 50s, but she's been released from the asylum and is okay. But then people start disappearing around their house again. It's funny. It's kind of a romantic comedy. It's funny, very dry English, but it has, like I said, Rowan Atkinson, Kristen Scott. I'm sorry, I forgot her last name already.
Kristen Scott Thomas. Yeah,
Kristen Scott Thomas. Yeah. So, but those three, and those are all 3 big names for me. So I'm a huge Rowan Atkinson guy. I'm a huge Blackadder fan.
Okay.
Not a Bean fan.
MM tells Monique there's a fight in the yard. He needs to go break up and gets off the phone. MM asks how it went with Raynor. Butcher tells them they don't have a deal. He lies and says she got cold feet.
Yeah, that's what what I said previously. Yeah, he just flat out lied right there. He got cold feet.
MM wants to know why, asking if Butcher told her everything. Butcher says he laid it all out for her, even the sample of Compound V, but she said she couldn't authorize that kind of action against Vought. It was too much of a risk. MM is suspicious. He says, did she? Butcher calls her a spineless. Frenchie says, so we are royally Butcher says, no, we ain't them. We don't need them. We got everyone and everything we need right here in this room. We'll take down Vought ourselves, yeah? Frenchie agrees. Butcher turns to MM and asks where Huey is. Mesmer is climbing a flight of stairs and calling someone on his cell phone. It's Tina, the CPS agent that is friends with MM. He connects with her voicemail and leaves a message telling her that Cleo didn't really want to see him today. She was just being polite. He says he's pretty good at reading stuff like that. He tells Tina she doesn't need to call him or any of that anymore. It's okay. Just please look after her. He thanks her and hangs up. He continues up the stairs and arrives on the roof where Homelander is waiting for him. Mesmer apologizes, saying the elevator was out. He reaches out trying to shake Homelander's hand and says, "You probably don't remember, but we've met before." Homelander leaves him hanging, which causes Mesmer to tell him he would never try and read him. Homelander says, "Let's be clear. I don't know you, and I don't want to. A-Train says you have some information." Mesmer says they go back to the teenage Kicks days. Homelander cuts him off, saying, "Oh, golly gee shucks. What makes you think I would give two about that? Now, do you have something for me or not?" Mesmer pulls out his phone, showing him pictures of Butcher and the boys, mentioning they were looking for a French guy, a black guy, and a British guy. Mesmer says he knows there's no reward for finding them, but he was hoping Homelander would put it in a good word for him at Vought. Homelander has his phone, turns around, and begins walking away from him. And Mesmer says he'll take any posting. Low 5 figures would be fine. And talk about selling yourself short. That's $10,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
How desperate do you have to be? I mean, you could make that working at McDonald's.
Yeah, you can make more, I think.
Yeah, actually, you can. Yeah.
You can work up to management and do better than 40.
Homelander turns around and gives him a finger. Not the middle finger, but like a warning finger, his index finger. Warning him to stop talking. Mesmer tells him he just wants to be one of the good guys again. And this is a good guy that sold out his relationship with his daughter to eat scraps from the soup table again. What a person.
Yeah, what a great guy.
Mm-hmm. Homelander is intently looking at the picture of Butcher on the phone. He's really thinking about it, almost as if he recognizes him.
Right.
He then takes off in flight, keeping the phone. Mesmer whines about him taking the phone after he leaves.
Yeah, and apparently, because one of the things that Homelander doesn't have is apparently good recall. He just looked eyeball to eyeball to him at that race.
Yeah, that's what that look that he's giving the phone. I'm wondering if he has that recollection from that race of that guy that was staring at him. That's what stuck out to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Huey and Starlight are in a bar again. She's telling Huey that she almost blinded the doctor when she was born, so she had powers right from the start. She asks why he asked the question. He tells her he was just curious. She asks if they can avoid talking about hero stuff and begins telling him of a beach in the Bahamas that has sand as pink as cotton candy. Huey asks what it's called, and she says Pink Sands, and they both get a good laugh. She admits it's not the most creative name. She proposes that they just go there. He jokingly says he can learn to play the steel drum and she can get cornrows. She says, "How about tonight?" He says, "Book that ticket." Then after a moment asks if they're really talking about this. As she responds, Huey is hallucinating again, seeing his dead girlfriend in the background. Starlight is saying she doesn't know, but ever since she moved to New York, it's been an endless show, except for Huey. Somehow, in the middle of it all, he found her. He reaches out and kisses her, and when that kiss is done, the hallucination is gone.
Yeah.
They go to kissing again, and then they're interrupted by Butcher.
Even worse.
Then hallucinating the girlfriend.
Yeah. Right.
Butcher introduces himself as a friend of Huey's named Billy. Starlight mentions Huey has a lot of friends showing up to this bar. Good observation.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the alphabet, we have Anthony and then Billy. So, is his friend going to be Charles, or Chuck will be his next friend?
Butcher pretends to realize that she is the new member of the Seven. Starlight admits she is. Butcher tells her it's a pleasure to meet her and that he thinks it's marvelous that so many more women are in positions of power. He says, if he's perfectly honest, translucent's always been his favorite and asks what he's up to. Starlight says she thinks he's on a mission. Butcher says he thinks he read that, but he's been gone a long time and that he hopes he's all right. Starlight looks at Huey for a moment because he's been awful quiet. Then she says she's going to go get them all a pitcher. She turns to Billy and guesses that he likes Guinness, but he says he likes whatever she likes.
Right.
As soon as she is out of earshot, he turns to Huey and says, well. It's like a father about to get somebody in trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
Huey tries to explain. Butcher continues saying, she's quite tasty up close and personal. I get what you see in her. Huey tries to tell him that wasn't what he thought it was. Butcher says, I thought we had an understanding. Huey assures him they do, and that it's not what it looks like. Butcher doesn't believe him, saying, from where I'm sitting, it looks like you have your tongue halfway down the opposition's throat. Huey tells him she isn't the opposition, that she's just a good person. She could help them. Butcher asks him, what do you think she's going to do when she finds out you murdered Translucent? Huey asks, when she finds out?
When she finds out.
Butcher smiles and says, give her my best. Then he leaves. Starlight comes back and asks where Butcher went. Huey just has a dumb look on his face. We are treated to Big Shot by Billy Joel playing as the screen fades to black.
That is a great Billy Joel jam. That's one of the few. I'm sorry, I like the old school rock and roll Billy Joel, and I kind of like that certain era, but that's one of the ones I really like a lot. So what a great episode again, man. A lot going on.
Man, there was a lot of exposition in this episode. Oh. What were your favorite points that we covered?
Oh man, there is my word. A lot of the stuff that we just did, I love the terrible propaganda stuff. I thought it was so funny to see, and because I believe Vought sees themselves as this way, or they're obviously selling the image, but some of the people that work at Vought have that image, you know, especially lower level people. You know, they would feel that way. They're like, I'm making a change. I'm working there. So I like seeing that. I like that about it. I like the stuff with Maeve. We're treated to a little bit more of her, and she's starting to be less two-dimensional as we go. I like the stuff in Homelander's craziness. Dude, that guy, he just switches that back and forth, that personality. You know, you've got an actor playing an actor on television. You know, playing a superhero who's trying to be an actor at this point. So he's playing multiple different bits very well. And the way he does that so convincingly, it's like, hey, I just really love that guy that plays Homelander. He's good. He's really good. Well, I'll put it like this. I think everyone's been pitch perfect as far as cast.
Yeah, I pretty much like everybody in their role. Yeah.
I can't think of anybody. You know, I like Huey an awful lot. You know, he's got famous parents, don't you?
No.
He's a Quaid.
Oh, really?
He's Randy and not Dennis. He's one of the good looking ones. He's not Randy's the correct. It's Dennis, I think.
Dennis Quaid,
and Meg Ryan is his mama.
Okay.
So so he's got some. You know, he's a good looking boy. So you got it coming from both sides.
Now that you mentioned that, I see the nose, Meg Ryan's nose.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I just love everyone in that show is so perfect. I mean, even the people that you just love to hate. I mean, look at the Deep. I mean, the Deep is what a great actor. He's terrible. He's not terrible. He's a great actor. He's playing a terrible person wonderfully well.
Yeah.
And so there's so much about this show I love. I'm so eager for season 3. I'm enjoying going through this with you for sure.
Oh yeah. It's been fun to go through it at depth and then share just all of our thoughts together. Yeah. We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.